Okay, good evening. I would like to call the city council work session of Wednesday, January 10th to order. And first on the agenda, we have approval of the agenda. But before we approve it,
Sorry, jumped the gun.
we'd like to make sure we do it right, you know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a discussion last night. And at the end of that time, we talked about whether we wanted to have a follow-up discussion in tonight's meeting. And so if we are going to do, we need to amend the agenda. And that's,
I don't see how we can do that without giving notice to people that we're discussing it.
Well, we're not going to be making decisions.
This is just the good of the order, isn't it? We could discuss it at good of the order.
And then perhaps put it on next Tuesdays.
I can amend the agenda. It's already out, but we can add it onto it. That's the TL.
Or if you said you didn't really want to mix those two.
Well, I don't, but you know, I'm just one person.
What does a future make a decision on that look like? I mean, what's needed?
I don't know. Well,
So during good of the order, we could just kind of have a recap on what we perceived was the message last night and then put it on Tuesday's agenda
Okay, that sounds.
at the end of the meeting.
Okay,
Does that work?
it's fine.
so we are not going to amend the agenda,
No, if we're going to talk about it at good of the order, we don't need to, right?
right?
Correct.
So I will second Brandon's motion that he made a moment ago.
You did? Okay, all in favor?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so first we have public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make public comment? If you would raise your hand. Okay. So we will go ahead and go right into our first discussion item, which is Sea Turtles Forever. Bruce, would you like to start it off?
Yes, December 12th meeting, we talked about the request from Sea Turtles Forever for payment for microplastic removal from the beach. And at that time, we discussed the fact that there was a $10,000 line item, but it was not assigned to Sea Turtles Forever. And so, but they said they did the work. And so the council had some questions. How many people worked, how many hours were worked, the rate of pay was. Been paid, the workers have been paid, what was the funding source? And how much microplastics was collected. That information was provided by Mark Ward, Executive Director. And so your questions are answered. And I'm sure Mark is here to answer any other questions you might have.
I came just in case.
Yeah, come on up. We have questions. Or I have a couple. You want to state your name and
Or,
mailing address?
and I live at 36286 Highway 26.
Okay, thank you. Other people have questions before we start? So I would like to know what you did with all of the debris of all the poundage that you said you collected. The 2,607 pounds.
Is that the total? That's the total that I gave you?
Yeah,
Because I was just taking that out of our books.
yeah.
It went in a dumpster.
A city dumpster or,
Most of it went in the city dumpster here.
okay,
Some, and is that what, was that Cannon Beach total?
it says total debris collected was 2,607.47 pounds. And as usual, a large percentage of that came from Well Park where we removed 1,301.47 pounds.
I think that was actually just the Cannon Beach weight, and it would have gone in the dumpster back here.
Okay,
I wasn't the one dumping it though. It was our lead guy.
okay.
I might have dumped it once, or twice maybe, but leave that. I mean, but you're supposed to dump it right back here.
Okay, so how many, did you collect that? You didn't collect the whole 1,300 pounds in one day.
No, it was,
Okay,
did, I think 4 days. We did, it's on there. I have to pull everything out of our records. You know, I have a log of every single day we work. How long we work, who work, how many pounds we remove. Keep log every day, but there's about 64 days. And I do remember that 1,300 was what came out of Well Park this year, and we had a small crew. I was struggling with budget. And also, I had a couple guys quit. One guy sprained his ankle, done, and another guy worked for about a month and quit. And I was hesitant to hire anybody else at that point. We had just like 3 of us.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I'm not sure if we're gonna make it through the season paying 5 guys anyway.
okay.
So we kept it down to a pretty small crew. And worked, I think, 64 total days. It's on there.
Your hours are here, yeah. One person, 245 hours, one person, 33, one person, 262, and one 540.
Right, and my 540 hours includes everything I do. But, you know, I work out, I think my salary was $7 an hour.
Yeah, I did it.
So, because that includes buying for supplies, delivering supplies, communication, doing all of the interacting with the accountants, logs and everything I do. There's a lot of peripheral work besides. And that would also include the time I spent on the beach.
Okay. And why is it that your organization doesn't apply for the community grants as most of our nonprofits do?
It was the last council suggested, I believe, that we do a line on, and Ed too. Ed's supposed to be on here, but you know, I'm really the guy on the ground myself. How we got that transition. It was maybe a combination of Ed and Sam, and that's how it went. Hey, there should be a line item. You know, we're doing this every year. Let's make a line item. And I'm like, and for my position as the executive director, I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, sounds great to me.
Mhm.
You know, the Parks and Rec were giving us like, you guys gave us a couple grand a year, right?
Mhm.
And you know, our really, I like to have 25 grand to work with. And I think this year I raised about 50.
It's all here.
We were a little bit under budget. We had a budget deficit, but we had a budget surplus from last year. And so we were able to make it through. Because we had a surplus last year. And when we have a surplus, it just sits there.
Carry over.
So in the future, would you be willing to apply for one of those grants? I mean, you have it's not a complicated grant. It really isn't.
Right, I've done them.
Yeah, so maybe going back to that method, and we could avoid this kind of a
Yeah, if you guys are,
communication.
you know, really, if you're uncomfortable with doing it this way, then, you know, I'm just trying to do a service, and trying to keep the beaches I love clean.
No, I think what you're doing is fantastic.
And
It's not that,
I don't
it's not the
think we're
issue.
questioning the value of it at all.
No.
It's just that I think what we're gonna have happen, you know, I've heard on the streets that other nonprofits are saying, why can't we be a line item? And the community grant program, I mean, it's wonderful. Not every city, I mean, most cities do it, but not at, you know, the $90,000 that was budgeted this year. And I just think to make it fair for every nonprofit, if we have a level playing field, I think that makes a lot more sense.
And I absolutely respect your, you know, and I'm here for guidance.
Okay,
That's how I work.
you're going forward in the future,
Yeah,
applying for the grant like all the other nonprofits, and then
be happy to
you
do.
don't have that.
Right.
I wouldn't want, you know, I could, you know, I could tell this could be a problem for,
Mhm.
you know, when if other nonprofits are like, hey, why do they get a line item? Hey, if that's a problem, we don't want a problem.
It will be.
Happily apply for that. So
So that process starts
February 21st.
February 21st this year.
Are due April 22nd.
They used to send me a heads up.
We send them to applicants, people who had the grant the previous year, but I'll put a note to send you the information when it gets released as well.
Thank you.
But keep in mind, a deadline is a deadline.
You know me well.
Yes, I know. That's why I said it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, the Clatsop County Cultural Coalition gives out money, not for arts things. But if someone makes an arithmetic mistake in it, like they add up a column and are off by $2, bam, they're out.
Right.
I mean, that's really how that
If
works.
they miss the deadline.
Yep. Yeah,
If they
even by a few hours, they're
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So that's, you got to do that just to keep it.
Kind of had a blessing this year because we got through the season, but I had all the bills paid and I got an accounting bill for $750. And I'm like, and I thought we were done with that because all the counting was done. And they're, oh no, this was for whatever it was.
Mhm.
And we only had about $250 left, but the Lamb Foundation gave us $2,000.
Nice.
And now we have a little bit of a surplus.
Yeah.
So that was a blessing.
Course.
Okay. Okay.
So I recall budget meetings when we approved this. Just as microplastics cleanup.
Right.
But we never awarded a contract, but the work got done. Is that,
Yes.
how did that happen?
In the budget committee, we decided to not name a nonprofit, to just make it a line item for microplastic removal.
And at some point, that budget get allocated to sea turtles.
No, I think that's what we're discussing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never actually allocated it at the time, but now they've done the work. So they're asking,
And provided the documentation.
right,
That we
and,
asked.
and I think actually very clear and easy to read, so I liked it.
I tried to do the line item for our budget the way that it was requested.
Mhm.
And it's not a really complicated operation,
No,
but I
it's-
tried to do it the way it was requested last time out.
No, you did a really good job with that.
Thank you.
Yep,
So you think this is clear?
yep,
So we asked for an invoice. Is there an invoice here?
Kind of people have different definitions of invoices, but
Right.
it spells out who was paid, and it's kind of the 5 Ws.
tacit invoice.
Yes, it's it's
I do invoice my construction business all the time and it's just straight, here's the work,
Yeah.
here's what you owe.
This is,
And I felt like
this
it's
is great.
kind of funny giving you that kind of invoice. Just felt fine.
I don't know, I think of an invoice as, here's how much you owe. So
Right.
is that here somewhere?
Well, can I make a motion or?
This is a work session,
Yeah, no, this is a
Work session.
Oh, okay,
so it'll be on
okay.
a further agenda unless there's other questions.
The only question I do have is that, what is the total? I notice on the first page, Mark, you have that we approved $11,000, but I understood it was 10.
It is.
That was 10, yeah.
And
Okay,
Our president, Ed Johnson, he directs me through all this kind of stuff because he's got so much experience in this room and, and in life. And he told me, well, there was a 10% increase for inflation and you need that for 11. And I'm like, really? Okay.
Like
Okay.
an,
now,
So.
I don't know what his experience is in.
I
but-
literally asked him, how do I present this?
No, it-
Voice form.
That's where I'm getting confused. So
It definitely.
the ask is for the $10,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I did have a question on the pounds that you claimed. First of all, how did you weigh it? And second of all, did that include the woody debris that was in the bags with all the plastic?
It does.
Okay,
There's woody debris and we actually worked super hard the last 2 years pulling woody debris. And I have photographs of piles of the woody debris that we're pulling out every day. We're taking a lot more time. It's a lot more time.
how did you weigh this?
We got a digital scale on the beach every day and we weigh the bags at the end of the day with a digital scale.
So that wasn't all plastic. It was, a lot of it was woody debris.
I would say it's when I have broken down 20-pound samples that are just straight off the beach without picking anything out of them beforehand, it was about 40% grass.
Okay.
Or woody debris, grass, pine needles, whatever's in there, it was about 60.
Anything that's non-plastic.
That was I've only done that once. It took me a month. I mean, it was really intense to break every complete thing out of there,
Mhm.
but it was about 40% grass. And, you know, the amount of time it takes to do that is astronomical. So we do it. I made sure everybody did the last 2 years in a row. The first time we heard someone said, hey, man, there's too much weed debris, and we're like, I told all our crew, okay, you guys, we're pulling everything we can, all the way debris out. I don't care if it takes twice as long. You gotta do it because, you know, we want the city to be happy. We want the people to appreciate what we're doing and think we're doing it right and efficiently. So we took a lot of hours to pull as much as we could out.
So
It does vary, Nancy, from literally from day to day where you're working. Sometimes it might only be 10% wood, and then other times it might be 40% wood.
So this 1,300 pounds, for instance, about 60% of that is plastic and about 40% is wood.
That would be
Okay.
from the sample separations I've done. That's what I come up with
And that's by weight or by volume?
by weight. But, and still, though, like I say, day by day, it changes. I mean, you literally would have to do it every day if you want, if I could give you a real
Mhm.
scientifically based answer. You have to do every different site. It changes. Like sometimes you get into a lot of grass and woody debris and it's kind of matted in. It's like a mat and it's just plastic is just embedded in it. And that's when you'd have the heavier weights. And then sometimes you're just in open, clean sand and it's just so plastic. And then you would have a real small ratio. But so it changes every day a little bit.
But you said 60% plastic and
That was the 20-pound sample when I took a 20-pound bag and separated every pine needle. I mean, it probably took me 6 weeks to do that. Cause I'd only be able to take it for a few hours at a time.
And 40% was woody debris, right?
Yeah, and the woody debris by volume would take up a lot more volume than the little microplastics.
Guess that's what I'm getting to, because I don't know if any of the rest of you looked at some of the sample bags, but
Yeah, I did, but that's because the wood takes up so much room,
yeah, it took work
right?
for me to find the plastic.
And it's lightweight too, compared to the plastic is much denser than the wood. Cause it's dried out a lot of it,
All the plastic's gonna be in the bottom of the bag. It's all gonna be
right?
wet in the bottom. So if you open the bag, that's where the wood's at the top.
then you would think it'd be pretty easy to separate.
You
I think.
it on the ground.
Why don't you invent something that will sift?
We really tried. Steven, my lead guy,
Yeah.
this was his like 6th year on the beach and he's leading our link show. He built a box
Mhm.
that had, it was a configuration that he made
Mhm.
that we were trying.
Yeah.
That he goes, well, we gotta try and figure something out, Mark. I'm like, he's good. Steve's smart.
Mhm.
And he figured something out. It was kind of a cool configuration, but it took a ton of time.
Yeah.
A ton of time to even use that.
If anyone could figure it out, it'd be Stephen.
The guy is smart.
Yeah.
He did try because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
How that is the only issue. If we could overcome that issue, it'd be a perfectly clean. Oh, we're just getting perfectly clean plastic and without picking everything
Right.
by hand.
Yeah.
So intense.
Okay,
And
Oh, do you-
you know what? I've asked biologists about this from the very beginning. Hey, what about the woody debris? Just get rid of it, Mark. Don't, you gotta keep going as fast as you move, as fast as you can, keep your team moving fast. Maine's told me that.
Mhm.
Just don't worry about that stuff. Just throw it away. It's not gonna hurt to take that out of the environment. There's millions and millions of tons of it. And so, I took my advice from biologists on what do I do about this? Are we gonna create harm or, and they're like, no, Neil Maine said, I'd like to bring in a front loader and just You know, at a,
So do we have any representatives from Sea Turtles that would also like to speak? I'm not cutting you off, but
I would like to speak.
sure,
yes.
come on up.
Okay.
Hi Sharon, I didn't know you were back there.
I arrived late, sorry. Um,
So name and mailing address,
my
please.
name is Sharon Amber. My mailing address is P O Box 101, Cannon Beach, Oregon.
And are you on the board of Sea Turtles?
No, I'm not.
Just,
I'm not, and I'm not a representative. It's just, I have some comments. Since my son worked for Sea Turtles forever, for several years, I know something about it. And one thing that was brought up that, you know, first of all, I want to thank you guys on city council for what you're doing here because, you know, it's a good job. These people on Sea Turtles Forever are also providing a really good service for our community. And what's different about this nonprofit and other nonprofits is they're dealing with an extremely hazardous poisonous substance. You know, we have ways to take care of other hazards in our community. We have the fire department, we have the police department. Thank you so much. We have an extreme hazard on the beach. There are portions of our beach between here and Astoria that have a higher concentration of poisons and PCBs than they do at the Superfund site on the Columbia Slough. So, before he started doing, and now I don't know if this is related or not, but before he started cleaning the microplastics off the beach, I could not leave my window open in the summertime because the campfires just, I would wake up coughing and sneezing and I couldn't handle it. Now it goes into August and there's more campfires on the beach. And I can leave my window open most of the time because it doesn't seem to bother me as much. And it could be the people are building campfires right on this this line of plastic going up and down the beach that, you know, it's plastics that were, this was our parents and our grandparents that you know, some of those plastics are that old and they've broken down into some very toxic substances. And so these campfires are being built on these lines of plastic, and they're poisoning us and they're poisoning our guests, and it's not a good thing. So I think these guys are doing, you know, something very necessary for the community. And I would like to see it as a line item on the budget. I don't know if you can do that, but like I say, it's different from other nonprofits because of what we're dealing with. And it's not just the sea turtles, and it's not just the birds that are getting poisoned by these things. It's us. So, now he's been donating a lot of his time for 20 years, and we're asking him to donate more to do, you know, paperwork, which, you know, some people.
that's part of being a nonprofit. I'm sorry.
That's what your board of directors is supposed to take care of.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to see more money from him. You know, I don't know if my son is going to keep doing it because it's pretty hard on your body. But anyway, that's
Thank you.
my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks.
Sharon, you might want to look at this month's issue of Consumer Reports. It's all about plastics or environments. Very interesting.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, Sharon, for.
And Mark, I think she would be an excellent board member.
We have a couple new scientists too, they were looking out for the.
Okay,
Anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much.
thanks.
That's the lesson I try and teach my kids every day. Be respectful.
Deadlines? Oh,
Respectful.
great. Thank you. Okay,
So the
so
next meeting is when we will make it.
is it on the agenda for
I can add it to the February 6th agenda.
agenda?
February 6th? Okay, that's when we're going to vote on. Okay. All right.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have lifeguard budget clarification.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to cover it?
I don't have a choice. My counterpart is on a call, so I get to be the lone and only. So the last meeting, we talked about the lifeguard program and there was some confusion about the budget, and I understand where that came from. There were some things put in the packet that really were a discussion with Bruce and I in early, and they all into the packet. So I understand where that confusion came from. I didn't realize, I should have known because I was part of it, but I didn't. So I'm sorry for what went in there that led to some confusion. So I'd like to just kind of run through real quick of what was supposed to come out, not what did. So just a quick recap. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation that Jason did. I don't need to. This is just about the funding. But again, this program was started in 1938. It started by donations, and then became a city funded in 1957. And it has been city funded since. It is a city program. It is a city funded program. The idea is that we are trying to help the management and make it better. But we can't do it as a fire district. I don't have the ability to do it. We need the city funding to continue it. That's really the only change. It is still a city funded program. We've already talked about the importance of it. We all know that. We are interested in taking over running the program with some help. So the proposal is we need to start the program now. That's what that 50,000 is to get through the rest of this budget year before July 1. It's to do equipment and to hire lifeguards prior to July 1. That's what that one time now 50,000 is.
You want to take questions as you go or?
Sure.
So just to clarify, the 50,000 is money that hasn't been spent this fiscal year.
From the 265.
It's from the last budget year, or this current budget year, there was 165,000 budget.
165, thanks.
And we spent around 114,000.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
number is closer to 35,000 left over, but we can come up with 15 if you need to.
Okay. I had it as 114. Obviously, you
Yeah.
have that record that I had to coming straight from. But that's what we're asking, is that to get it started. So what we're funding in the next budget year, as far as personnel, is part of the head lifeguard program position, 2 leads, and then the seasonal under it. Go ahead.
So for your seasonal people, are you going to try to hire locally?
Oh, absolutely. Wow, absolutely. That's what we have. So last year, these surf shops were the biggest supplier of them. We had several from the surf shop. The struggle we're going to have, I think, this year a little bit is we also had a lot of Coast Guard. And we lost several of those guys from the Coast Guard that are already left and are down California, wherever they are in Coast Guard school. That's going to be a weekly tone test at 6:30. So yeah, we do it locally. We're hoping that a lot of the school swim team, we can recruit for some of that. We've done that in the past. So yeah. So going forward in the next budget year, the 265,000, roughly 57,000 that is material services and capital. It's kind of a fixed, this is what the costs are to run it. And then the 207,000 is the personnel costs.
Okay, so on the personnel costs on your budget, here's my question. I'm still, I'm still struggling with this PERS issue. I
Absolutely.
realize that people are eligible for PERS even if they're working, not full time.
Yep.
But there's a 6-month waiting period, according to what I read in the PERS, all the PERS information online. So there's a 6-month waiting period before someone's even eligible for PERS. So if you hire some, a young fellow who's not on PERS now and you hire him, he isn't even eligible for PERS for 6 months. So he wouldn't,
We never pay him PERS.
so your PERS number would likely be much.
That's the hope. Yes.
Okay.
And that's what, I'm gonna jump ahead just real quick. And that's why I said here, especially the seasonal lifeguard, it is seasonal lifeguard. It's highly variable based on how many lifeguards we get, how many their daily staffing is, and their PERS eligibility. The entire budget is based on the highest.
He's glad to see you.
Yeah, well, see you. You're right, it's based on the high. Because that's what I need to budget for.
So any of the revenue that's for people who are not qualified for PERS or who haven't reached that 6-month, cutoff, that money would be applied towards what? Towards the next year's budget, though.
Absolutely. So at the end of the year, we will take, end of the full year, we will do a report of this is what we spent. And we will correct that to the next budget year. If we spent less than that 207,000 that we have budgeted for personal services from the city, we will show that, say, we only spent 198,000. Here's the credit for the next budget year.
And I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be, I'm just want to have all the information I can.
Absolutely.
So I looked at the Seaside lifeguard program's budget, which is way lower than, and I'm wondering, what is the difference? Why is Seaside so much less?
The difference is, and Joey, Chief Daniels, and I've talked about it a lot. The difference is they're a city department. They're already funded by city department. They don't have, their management of it is management internal. If they don't have anybody to work on the beach, if they don't have lifeguards, they have to take somebody off staff and go put it over there. So that never goes back to the lifeguard program. There's a lot of internal that happens in Seaside Fire that really doesn't get applied to the lifeguard program. There's a lot more costs to it than what you see because it's absorbed within the Seaside Fire budget.
Okay.
A lot of their
And he can answer a lot more than I can.
firefighters are previous lifeguards. And like Genesee, who's a full-time division chief, will go down and cover the beach a lot of days because they don't. have lifeguards.
Okay.
But then you would think within the departments, they would transfer that so they get a true.
It's different up there because they've always been in charge of the lifeguards up there. So
Right.
it just kind of has been part of their whole budget and they have a certain amount that's for the lifeguards and then they just backfill with their employees. It's more confusing for sure. This is an easier way of
Right.
documenting it.
And you wonder if they're going to change that with the new finance, because they have.
Yeah, I think that's part of the plan because even Chief Daniels admits they need more money for their program so they can get more qualified applicants
Okay.
and more of them because they are short-handed a lot.
Now, what happens if the personnel cost is more than $207,000?
So we are, let me get to, there's a slide that I talked about that. I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere in this. Basically, long story short, I took and said, this is the maximum amount that it could cost us to run the program. And that's what I am budgeting in our fire budget next year for the lifeguard program. So we run over what have we said, the 207,000. We've already budgeted that in fire budget. We're going to end up eating that. We've got, because we need the lifeguards. And then we come back next year or in 2 years and we started that conversation. Okay, this is what it really cost us. And this is what we actually did. This is what the program did. We recognize that the first year in this first probably 2 years into this, there's gonna be a lot of learning of what is the true cost of it. And when I say the true cost is because we already talked about how much we need to expand the program on both ends of it, starting earlier and ending later. And so a lot of that's going to depend on how many lifeguards we can get. But by doing what we're trying to do here, we can pretty much guarantee that we can have at least 2 lifeguards on the beach 7 days a week from April to October. Because we'll have the full-time seasonal that we hire and the head guard that we're gonna hire. Plus, we already have, in a way, we're actually getting 2 people. We already have 1 full-time captain. What this does is hires a second full-time captain that now they can work opposite each other. She's already a lifeguard. So now you have one of those will be on the beach. When nobody else can be on the beach, we don't have any other lifeguards, they will move to the beach. And so can guarantee that when you have 2 people from April to October.
And how many full-time staff members will you have then altogether?
2 full-time staff members in the department.
Yeah, in the department.
We would have, they're gonna make me do math.
You can use your fingers.
I know, it's gonna take a lot of them.
Those?
We would have 10 at that point.
Full-time,
Yes,
and that's year-round.
yes. Not including lifeguards, but just the fire side, we'd have 10.
Okay. That's pretty good.
10 full-time year round.
Mhm.
Oh,
So we have the 3 on right now. We're hiring the 3 more right now from Levy, which will give us 6. And then with the 2 captains and admin, we'll have 6. We'll have 10.
Okay.
If I'm counting right. I think I counted enough.
So this ask is for $100,000 more annually of what we agreed previously, the 165 plus whatever balance there is to get up to 50 for the startup.
Also, though, remember that to clarify that, yes, it's 100,000 more, but 57,000 of that is dedicated to equipment, which we didn't have before. We're taking that over, which wasn't before.
And that's the plan we looked at that keeps equipment up to date and
Yes,
and replaced and
correct.
And
have we looked at where this money's coming from? Or
Comes from the general fund.
and we're in good shape that
Yes.
you're feeling about this as far as supporting it?
No, there's that.
It's gonna be, well, one of the nuances to this is that the district is asking for the 50,000 river front, which means we have to pay now. And then also, in doing so, we're kind of saying we will fund this program. So we're making a decision that we're taking $100,000 and setting it aside for this program, which will compete for other requests. But it's like part of the budget process, they give and take. This is an important program.
how much did we allocate for materials last year for the fire?
Mark, did we have just a straight dollar amount or was it?
We didn't do anything with that. That all was in the police department.
We had it in our police budget, I
Yeah.
know. So do you know how much we had?
Not offhand, don't worry. A wizard.
I'm just thinking it, since we already had it in the police department, if we just take that and plus whatever else.
Yeah.
Kind of a wash.
Yes.
What I'd like to see, actually is that, at least for the first, well, I'd like to see that the budget be audited by either the city or a professional hired by the city.
Mhm.
At the end of the fiscal year to see how everything plays out. I think that would be in expenditure like this. I think it's important that,
Sure.
I'd like to see a professional bookkeeper, a professional auditor, or, professional accountant.
Trust but verify.
Yes, That's what I like to see. And I just have another issue thing I wanted to bring up. I know I brought this up before and got shut down, but you know, when I mentioned that, it seemed to me that this program was the perfect kind of program to be funded by TLT taxes. And I was told, no, you can't do that. Well, my question is since this is the only lifeguard program, as far as I know, on the Oregon coast outside of Seaside,
That's true.
where's it been tested? We've never, has it been tested? Did Seaside try and get TLT funds to fund it and get shut down? Or has it never been tested? Because I don't think we should just, you know, roll over all the time on this TLT idea and say, oh, well, we can't do it. We know we can't do it. I think it's for something like this, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. I'm not saying right now to try and do it because it would take a lot of work to do it, you know, to try and fund it through TLT and a lot of discussion and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm talking about down the line. It seems to me that it is tailor-made for TLT monies rather than our general fund.
Mhm.
And we've never tested it and no one's,
And by testing it, you mean going ahead and doing it even though it's against the law?
I don't
And
think
then
it is
ask for
against the law.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is, I don't believe it is against the law.
Oh, it is.
Well, no, depends on how you interpret the law, Gary. I mean, other jurisdictions have tested things and they've either failed or succeeded at them. And I just don't see how,
Majority have failed though.
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Majority have failed, but we've never even tried. No one's tried it. No one has tried to see why a lifeguard program that,
The ordinance tonight, but
Supposed to have that with you all.
it is very simple on what is allowed, and the definitions are very clear. So
well,
the question is,
that's what the law,
would it be challenged?
would it be challenged? And if it was challenged, would we necessarily lose? Because there, you know, it sort of depends on the climate at the time. I mean, all, you know, it's all a matter of interpretation. Law is, it's who's interpreting it and who, and what the courts decide which interpretation they want to go with.
I think
It's not black and white all the time.
I think if it's by the words on the paper, we would.
No.
lose.
Well, I'm glad you're not a judge then, because or a lawyer, because you know, because I think that these things are open to interpretation, and I think there would be a way to possibly frame it.
To
So
tourism promotion or a tourism related facility.
Yes, a
The ocean.
tourism promotion, yes. So I think this is something that to look at, and I think that the definition will get broader as the time goes on, because a lot of jurisdictions are kind of ticked off about how narrowly it's being defined. I mean, I've been hearing it from lots of people in different jurisdictions that they think it's not a good,
Yep.
that it's not a very, you know, it seems to be lobby driven, the way it's defined. And that, you know, I don't think, and lobbies strengths ebbs and gets stronger and, you know, ebbs and wanes. And so I think that we need to keep that in the back of our mind as a possibility in the, as we progress, not just to say, nope, can't do it, boom, end of the story. And that has nothing to do with us funding this now. I'm talking about as we go forward, I think we ought to be a little more courageous about how we approach that.
And the stats that you keep are definitely, I mean, they're great in terms of making the case for that. Did you rescue any local people this summer? Did you look,
And you
they all
never will.
50 miles or more away?
So the only people that can be rescued are tourists?
That's
Yeah.
only people they have.
No, but to the ocean.
Right, yeah, if it's a local
Bring a
person,
rip
yeah.
I'm sorry, it's guilty, but you can't rescue.
Yeah. Could have to call the
But
police
who
department.
does that? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
the people who live by the sea know not to run into the,
Well, not necessarily. I know a couple
We do
locals.
get quite a few, and we have a fatality of a local.
Yeah, we do.
really?
We need to remember that, yeah.
Yeah. But statistically, I'd say it was low. Anyway, I just think that that's something to keep in mind, because I'm not excited about just slamming the door on that idea.
Yeah, somehow it would have to be framed. And I can't argue with you that it makes sense that we incur these expenses because of tourism. But, you know, if you really look at the letter of the law, it would have to be framed somehow
Yeah,
as a tourist promotion.
yep, it would.
So what you're saying is that we're asking people to come in here and get in trouble?
No, ask him not to drown.
I know, I'm trying to follow
That's
the
an-
argument that.
yeah.
Mhm, how you,
Promoting.
we've got lifeguards.
The tourist,
promoting-
I don't have the definition of tourist promotion on the top of my.
Right, but we're one of only two beaches on the Oregon coast who promote beach safety by having lifeguards on duty.
And that's how you have to word it.
Right,
Is that you're trying to promote
Can see.
beach safety, not
uh-huh,
get here and, right.
right.
Okay,
I did just email the budget to Rusty if you want to pull that up. It has the lifeguard.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you can look at that.
And I had a question while we're waiting for that. On one of your slides that you showed right at the beginning, in parentheses, you said July through August.
I'm not sure what that was referring to. Was that the budget year?
But that isn't,
I know, that's what I'm asking.
so that's why I'm asking.
I'd have to see what the reference to, I'd have to see what the reference was to. Yep.
That's one of the very first things,
Yeah, I'd have to see what the reference was to.
budget year. So
That was probably a typo then.
a big
Get
one.
it?
Not wrong. Unless I was talking about the carryover from, because we budgeted 165,000 for this last year's
Mhm.
lifeguard program, and we only spent 114. And so we're asking for the 50,000 extra, which would, I guess the math still doesn't math.
I'm doing what we referred to, and I can tell you, but did I typo it?
It's just down to, I think, the last page is the lifeguard. Right there.
5,500.
Now, Lori, you have 166 in there for the contractual. Is that what we paid the fire department last year?
Yeah, 165 was the budget for
Hmm.
the lifeguard
Mhm.
program,
Right there, yeah.
165,000.
One of the things in this, is fuel in your lifeguard budget up there? Yeah, okay.
almost $2,000.
Very much.
And we're also budgeting in, part of it is the equipment replacement, actually putting in the equipment reserve. So we're actually replacing. So that was part of it too. Looking at future and have that plan of future.
Basically, we're going from 55,555 to 57,000. Increasing it by 10% or 10 times.
Yep. And we can go back and look at that if we need to, of why and what the rationale is behind it.
Tonight, once again, just looking for support.
Direction.
For support for
Can you go back to the slide? I
ultimately
can see what I,
160, it'd be 265.
So, and that leads me to the next question is then subsequent meeting will be making some sort of resolution.
Yes.
Okay,
That'll include an interlocal agreement,
We'll be updating the interagency.
yep.
interlocal agreement.
Right, you just missed it.
What did I say?
July through,
Yeah, that's a typo.
okay,
Sorry. Complete typo.
for fiscal year.
That's a complete typo.
Nice working with you, Jason.
Complete, you're right. It's supposed to be the fiscal year. How it got July to August, I'm not sure.
Okay,
I was trying to show the full fiscal year and that's on it.
thank you.
We were talking about equipment. Oops, there we are. So first is the capital, is putting money in the capital to replace those vehicles, that equipment. On a rotation, on a 5 years plan, 5 year span. The ATV right now, or the UTV, excuse me, is in sad shape. And so we're gonna actually take it out and try to repair it and make it last another year or two. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to. We've got to take it in and get it disassembled and find out if we can make it work again for another year or two. But it's actually that's so the first part of it is actually making that replacement plan. Because I think right now you guys just kind of, we got to do this and it gets budgeted as a lump sum to replace where we're trying to spread it out. So it's budgeted annually. And then the other side is the uniforms, all the other stuff. Yeah,
And they're on your payroll.
yes, they're all our employees, all our responsibility. Everything becomes our responsibility. And that's what we talked about last year was, is it time to do that? And we chose not to do equipment under us. And so now okay, I think it's time for the next step. Other questions?
Are you, do you have a percentage of that that's gonna go into capital reserve? Is that on the screen right before?
Yeah, so basically that 20,000 is basically going to equipment reserve.
Okay.
Basically, 20,000 a year is gonna go into equipment reserve.
Equipment though, it's still gonna be here and
We'll have to see that's the hope, because we don't have a lot of room, but as you.
oh, sorry, Jason.
Tearing down City Hall, that's gonna be a lot of, that's gonna be a lot of work of coordination. What stays here, but you guys are tearing a lot of this stuff down. And so, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of moving around to figure out, there's stuff up at the Public Works, works well, because we don't have a lot of room.
Sorry, it's already in your parking lot.
So I guess that is kind of the house too, which has worked well. I mean, it is still sharing the storage of stuff.
We need to talk.
The new facility is across the highway.
Yeah.
It would make a lot more sense to have all of that stuff somewhere in the.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily here.
I didn't say that. I said
know, but wait,
somewhere in the.
I want to give him
You could rent space to them.
if we had,
And I can rent space from Arch Cape too.
But then that makes it even further away.
Where's the helicopter going?
And we're not having one now, but Jason's retiring. Somebody else.
somehow over time, he hired a helicopter mechanic and a helicopter pilot.
Planning.
So 2 out of the 10 are helicopter
Yes.
mechanic and helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, are we gonna start rumors again?
So the next, we'll work on, Bruce and I were talking about the IGA. We got to update the IGA. But we need to, if we're going to do this, we need to do it soon, because we need to start hiring, getting people trained on. So.
How soon could you have the IGA for us?
February.
Okay,
I think we could do it February. And the iteration of this would be that if the council approves the 50,000, then once the IGA is signed, we can provide them with the 50,000. And then the next payment would be after July 1st.
Yep.
But the payment July first would be predicated on adopting the IGA.
Yes.
But then it also is gonna need the full budget committee approval.
Mhm.
So the IGA that we're gonna approve now would just be for the remainder of this fiscal year, correct?
I believe that if you sign a contract or you have a contract that's for a particular period in time. I mean, we don't start every contract over again after
Okay.
July first.
Yeah,
So you have an agreement? Yes.
Okay, good,
But,
okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
but no, what I'm saying, Mark, is relying on those funds to come in. So I'm saying that we would have to, once you sign the IGA, we're kind of committed to it unless we pull it back.
Are we gonna ask for quarterly reports like we do with the
Mhm.
chamber?
Mhm.
Okay,
We can do that. I don't want to do as Bruce and even though she's retiring, we did last year, the monthly,
get a helicopter.
yeah, the monthly is too much.
Right. So I think quarterly reports.
Right.
Good idea. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda. Lori, the financial report, please.
So I don't have a resolution number yet because I don't. I didn't put it in a packet. Yeah. Oh, in my banking one. Oh, in your banking, one? I was saying it's XX because I don't have a resolution number yet. Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, good evening, there. Source. Okay, tonight we have the first quarter financial report for our new fiscal year ending 2024. It's the first report of the fiscal year, obviously, and things are looking quite normal and what I expect to see. Our cash position is good. We have $19,491,000 in the bank as of September 30, 2023. Our bonds outstanding are $5,960,000. Principal payments are made on once a year in June. The general fund is coming in as expected. Normally, we have lower revenues in the first quarter, and that's because room tax and property taxes, which are our number 1 and 2 revenues. We don't collect those until October. So this report is primarily July through September data. That's in our financial records. So you will see, though, that I had the information at the time that this was published to let you know what the room tax was. You'll see that in the supplemental section, as well as our prepared food tax that we received. So we'll talk about that in a little while. So revenues in the general fund look good. Expenditures are within the normal ranges for this time of year. We're expecting a 25% rate, and pretty much that's all coming in with the exception of a few on page 3 that's 26%, but that's not anything to be concerned about. Our ending fund balance decreased because we aren't bringing in the revenues to offset expenses. So our expenses are normal, they're pretty steady throughout the year. Revenue streams are kind of low this time of year. The building department, RV park, recycling, water, wastewater, storm drain funds are all hitting their revenue targets at this time. And that is good to see.
Can I ask you a question about the RV park? I'm just curious. Do we know what percent of occupancy we had for that quarter?
First quarter.
Mhm.
I think I get that from them. It's on their report to me every month.
Cause it's down a little bit and I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if we had a lower occupancy rate in the RV park or what accounts for that. And that's something I'd really like to know.
okay. In future reports or,
Well, if we can get that information for this report, I'd like to know.
okay, I can get that to Bruce
Okay,
for the 3 months occupancy for 3 months.
yeah,
That period, okay.
yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Actually, it would be interesting to see what the previous quarters also were in terms of
Actually, good
occupancy.
point. Yeah.
Just so go back. You know,
Want to see each quarter or just the first quarter for each year?
no, I think I'd like to see all of last.
All of 23's quarter
Yeah,
and the current quarter.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can do that. Okay. The road fund, has a reliance on property tax as well as transfers from the general fund, so you won't see the property tax, represented there in this report. Anything else to know? Room tax, obviously, on page 4, you're not gonna see any revenues there. Move on to page 9. Page 9 is a good news page. So, revenues from room tax for the first quarter of fiscal year 2024 came in at $2.6 million. And that's line 2 there under quarter 1. See that 2.6 million compared to the prior quarter in 23 of 2.5 million. So we're really doing well. That's a great start to the year. We'll see how that pans out through the next quarter to see if we're continuing that trend. We have 3 quarters left and we have 54% of the budgeted revenues to collect in those 3 quarters. So sure we can accomplish that. Page 8 is the TAF fund. You can see we have a significant ending fund balance. That's on line 23 of the report. It's 1.2 million. We do, this report doesn't reflect any distributions going out since in October, but we are committed to $250,270 for those events. And you can see that on line 12 there in that first column. So out of that ending fund balance, we are committed to spending that much money. So obviously we're collecting revenue too as we go along each quarter. So there's a very healthy amount of money in this fund.
What the blue arrows are saying, hey, there's a lot of money here.
Yeah, look at it.
And when does the tourism and arts grant cycle we just start up again? TAC.
March or April.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, page 9, I think it is. Is it 9? Maybe it's not 9. Yeah, it is 9. Page 9. That just shows you where the room tax revenue goes. We have 3 funds that accumulate the 8% tax. The general fund on line 2, you can see has 2.1 million actual through October. And then the TAF fund brought in 230,000 of the 8%, and TRT fund. Actually, in the next budget year, I'm going to change the name of this fund to TLT because I notice everyone is calling it that.
Okay.
And so just to be consistent, we should just have one name for it, I think. So if that's okay, you'll see that in the budget, okay?
TRT goes to TLT.
Yeah, I think that's better because that's.
I completely agree. Thank you.
Hearing that,
Yeah.
yeah, TLT.
What's that? habit of mine, I know.
And it's
Uh,
fine. It's just,
Yeah.
I think one word.
And-
Silly is better.
And this is just me, I'm having trouble understanding. I just want to know, can you tell me how much was collected total in the first quarter for the prepared food tax?
Yes, I can. We're coming up on that report. Page 10, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
So the TRT fund that's here, is that chamber portion?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
chamber. Yes, all the money goes to the chamber that's collected in that fund. Per contract.
That's information center and marketing.
Yes, everything that's called for in the contract between the city and the chamber. It says that we pay them 100% of what we collect
Okay,
for those various purposes.
But does that also include the money that's given to them for like Fat Bike and?
No, that's in the TAF.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And you can see those events listed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, they got, in this first quarter, they got $230,917. Is that right?
Yes.
That I'm reading? Okay.
And through the TAF awards, they're gonna get another 33.
both of those quarter one up $24,000.
Okay, that's the, fancy lodging tax. Page 10 is, good news again on prepared food. It's great news. So in the first quarter, September 22, we brought in $683,000. And this quarter, $739,000. You can see that on line 1 there in the first column. So that's awesome.
Can you tell me what the collection rates mean exactly? Is that,
That's how much of the total it's been. So if you take 1.734 times 39%, you're going to get 683
so that's how much?
of the actual.
How much is expected for that quarter?
Oh,
No, that's the actual.
okay, of the total that you're getting. Okay, I was thinking of collection rates of
My bad.
how many people have paid. Okay.
That's what
Yeah.
we're carrying
Oh,
against.
okay.
But we have 100% compliance with the collection of our prepared food tax.
What do you mean compliance?
People, all the businesses paying like they're supposed to.
I'm aware of one exception.
Okay, and we're dealing with that. Okay. Anybody know?
Probably.
I have a guess.
A small town.
Okay.
So yeah, that went up $56,000 from the first quarter last year. So that's great. And then the supplemental information tonight about property tax. I do this once a year for council. Assessed value is at, and this is a lot of words, but I'm going to say it anyway, 1,130,534,798. So we're in the billions and it's a mouthful. So that's where our assessed value is for the current fiscal year. It's an increase of 3.58%. And Oregon statutes allow a 3% increase every year of assessed on top of your assessed value. And the extra things in there, like that 0.58, is usually the result of new construction and new appraisals. So that's the other part of that increase normally. And our permanent rate tax, and that's the amount that goes into the general fund. That's all considered discretionary revenue. That's that tax imposed. I'm on page 12. That's $796,940 a year. We are levying $455,000 for bonded debt. And those are the GO bonds that and the full faith and credit, or no, not full faith and credit. Sorry, I misspoke. It's the general obligation bonds that you levy debt for. So that's what that's for. And we've added 9 citizens to our population. So we're at 1,507. According to Portland State University.
So that isn't an actual census, it's the estimate that
It's
PSU.
based off the last census.
Okay.
Then PSU, Portland State University extrapolates and projects
Oh,
those
okay.
years out.
Great.
And then that's the state revenue, you know, that's per capita. They use population to distribute the state revenues. Those are the population figures they use for all the cities and all the jurisdictions they distribute revenues to. Our tax rate for the city of Cannon Beach, I'm on the last page now. You can see from all taxing districts, people in the city pay $11.74 per thousand assessed value. Other taxing jurisdictions or districts include Fire District, Clatsop County, Port Astoria. When you get your property tax statement, you can see the list there of everybody you're paying in addition to the city and the road district.
Is the road district just within city limits?
Yes,
Okay, but not highway? Do we pay anything for the highway?
no, city roads.
City roads, okay.
Yes.
I have a question for you on page 3. You mentioned that the general fund revenues don't reflect that up-to-date room taxes.
Are you on page 3 or page 2?
Page 3. Down at the bottom, general fund summary,
Yes.
and it says revenues are 739, 630. As it compared to last year at this time, it was 829, 630. Any idea why we're down 100,000, or almost 90,000, I guess?
Yes. In the prior year, in the 2023 column, you'll see we have the American Rescue Plan grant, fine 22.
Okay.
Our fines are a little bit higher in 23. We had the TSP grant at the time, and that's 41,000. We don't have that anymore. We don't have the American Rescue Plan anymore. And we have another, you know, we had Rick's program on line 50, that 200,000, $89. That was through the American Rescue Plan as well. So those revenues aren't coming back again. And the other thing is, though, that's softening that is there is a transfer in from the RV park that we made in this time frame, Q1, that we didn't do in Q1, 2023. So you add all those variances up, that's about the difference.
And then you have expenditures are 3.8 million this quarter versus 1.6 million a year ago.
Yes.
Why so much in expenses?
Okay, if you go to page 3 and you go to line 20, you can see that we had 1.9 million of transfers out. And that increased our expenditures where you didn't have that in the same period.
Okay, so why did we transfer this time versus not last time?
It's just a matter of timing.
Okay.
We make a
Not
journal
something that-
entry to do it. And we just decided, let's just get these transfers done and move on. Sometimes we just let it go for a few months.
Okay, so it's
That's
not,
why.
it's not an unusual circumstance in terms of,
No,
okay.
no.
And then the other question I have is on that, at the very top of that same page, building maintenance, 191,484, and the budget is 942,500. Which building are we maintaining? Because we're tearing everything down.
It's the building maintenance fund, but it's also being used to pay for the city hall, police station design.
Okay,
Because we didn't have any funding yet. We're gonna get funding through the bond issue. So in the meantime,
so it's kind of a holding place then for,
we're spending it out of the general fund and it'll get reimbursed through a reimbursement resolution that we have as part of the bond issue.
I'm afraid you were maintaining this building when we're going to be tearing it down in another few months. So, okay.
It's taken.
Yeah. Okay. So that's part of the new construction design. then?
Yes.
Okay.
CETA. Okay, any more questions?
Lori?
Yep, thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you, Lori. This is Lori's probably last presentation.
Oh,
Why?
when do you retire, Lori?
February 2nd.
And are you assisting right now with the budget, the preliminary budget process?
Yes, I'm working on it.
Okay.
I mean, gotten an earlier start than I normally.
If we gave you a helicopter, would you?
I don't know if I want a helicopter, but I could probably think of something else.
Okay, well, let us.
Would you like a new city hall? No.
Sure. Yes.
You will come back.
All my
You
comrades.
will come back and see the new city hall.
Oh,
Because you'll be
absolutely.
volunteering at the farmer's market. Set up a takedown.
Yes. I have another item coming up.
Oh, we're finished with
I'm
you.
still here.
Oh.
It's not that we don't- I don't wanna-
Why is he not leaving?
I thought we were supposed to have a present or something.
We'll want to be in the main.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're ready for the next item.
Okay. Okay, this is pretty much housekeeping.
Yep.
You have resolution 2007 attached to my staff report. And that is a resolution that talks about who could be a signatory on our bank accounts. And we have in the past named them by name. And Ron and I got to thinking and we said, you know, it's probably better if we just say the position of the city who is authorized
Yeah.
to be a signatory. So I have resolution number 24XX.
To be determined.
To be determined. And so we put this together and it just authorizes the city manager, finance director, and police chief as signatories. So like when I leave, it's going to be extremely easy to get with the bank and say, take me off. And when the new finance director gets here, we can put him on. And makes the transition much smoother. Because we don't have to keep coming back and saying, oh, now we have a new name.
And every check has 2 signatures.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes,
So if,
no matter what the check amount is, every check has 2 signatures.
correct, right, yeah. So, council wishes to consider adoption of this resolution, then we can start.
Can't do it
Due process.
Today, we
Right.
Yeah, there's been the work session, so.
Yeah, the
Oh, that's right, that's right. I'm
February 6th.
to,
February 6th.
February 6th. That's right. Okay, good.
4 days after you leave.
Huh?
4 days after you leave.
Yeah, yeah.
What if we say no?
Yeah.
You're gonna say.
have to stay.
Lori, I just have a question about the bank. That you, how come you don't use US Bank because it's here in town?
Well, Umpqua Bank used to be in town.
I know, but I'm just wondering, is that a concern? If
Um,
it's not an issue, I'm just asking.
You know, Ron and I have kind of talked about it. But you know, we just went through that transition, Umpqua Bank, which was not pleasant.
No.
I'm not familiar with what happened.
Well, it was just, you know, they had a hard time transitioning from.
Columbia.
Uh-huh.
And
Which affected payrolls.
kind of like smarting from that.
I
And
don't
we
want
thought
to
maybe we might,
Trying to drum up business for another bank. I'm just wondering if something local would be more helpful.
not necessarily more helpful. I think, you know, we don't get a lot of bank deposits, you know, because the only thing we need to take to the bank is cash.
Mhm.
And we don't get much cash. So I've been taking it to the bank and it hasn't been a huge problem. You know, we used to just go over there, but that wouldn't be the reason that we would switch banks. But if we wanted to, have a local presence, then US Bank obviously would be it if we decided to make a change. I mean, I haven't been exactly, I think Umpqua's okay.
But
We have thought about moving
Yeah.
for various reasons.
it was a rough transition though. For not just,
I don't have any experience
Yeah.
with that bank.
Yeah.
It's a rough transition for each individual customer too.
yeah,
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 but now it's okay. I think it is.
yeah.
I mean, it's smoothed out,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
I think they're gonna have some issues with having a new manager at Umpqua.
Oh, I didn't realize they had.
Yeah, because we just hired Hannah Beach, the Sherry.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
she's now administrative assistant here. It was really
okay.
strange going to the bank last.
Who's the new person?
Sherry,
Oh,
that was the bank manager.
Right. She's great.
Yeah.
She got the admin job here?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, she started. What am I saying? Yeah, and she did. Okay, good. Check it
Public
out.
meeting.
It's always great. when they come
Thank
back
you, Lori.
and say,
Explain.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
we'll miss you.
Oh, thank you. I'll miss you guys too.
I doubt it.
She's lying.
Okay, next we have the council review of the City Hall project details prior to DRB submittal.
And we're looking towards the submittal to the DRB. We want to make sure the council has had a chance to review everything that is going to be in front of the DRB. And so there was some discussion about the area out here on the west side. You can call it a plaza, you can call it whatever term you want to use. But they have some sketches for your consideration. And
There's 4 of them, right? 4 different ones?
Only have two. And they're both the same, they're the same sketch.
I have 4 different ones.
they're different.
Oh, there's option one and option.
Leslie's out there.
Oh,
Ask her.
So the ones that were out here tonight are the new ones.
so the ones that were in the packet are no longer,
Correct.
okay.
So Bruce was.
Well, this is what was in my packet. This is what's here. Okay.
Okay, anyway, for Leslie's conceded, she can put each one of them up for your discussion.
Say that again?
You can put each one of them up for your.
Hi, Leslie.
Hello,
Is it snowing?
not yet.
Okay.
So I apologize for not being there in person. That had been the plan, and also wanted to thank you for adding this item to the agenda. Late notice. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. You're absolutely right. The 2 that were there this evening are the newer versions. And I can explain that a little bit. Okay. I think you can see my screen now.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so as we have been working through design development and getting our package compiled and ready for the design review board, we've been looking at this plaza. We've been looking more carefully at the grading and doing quite a bit of coordination with civil. And so that's the primary reason you'll see these evolving as this process continues. What I wanted to do this evening was talk about the intended priorities for this area and the use by the community that is envisioned here, particularly on the south side of the building, where we have some space and opportunity for more of a plaza setting if that's desired. At the building entry, you'll notice we're showing some steps and ramps there. That is in response to some of the grading and civil coordination I just mentioned. So there is a fairly significant change in grade between the building elevation and the accessible parking that we're proposing to add along Gower there. And so we've been looking at options to reconcile that and how to make a nice entry plaza that is also accessible and welcoming. One thing I'll mention is that these two plans have some interchangeable components. So we can talk about, perhaps first we'll start at the south side in that plaza area, but the south section could be combined with the north section of either. Sort of it's a menu of options we can mix and match based on the discussion this evening. So starting with option 1, on the south side there, you'll see it's a sort of circular shape that would be intended for a community amenity as a plaza or gathering area, or a place for staff, also potentially to go out, particularly on a sunny day, nice southern exposure, to sit and eat their lunch. I know this was also influenced by hearing early on a desire to have an opportunity to display art potentially by the community. And so this option 1 opens up the hardscape and paving area a little bit to have some of those more gathering options. Moving to the option 2 on the south side, this has more landscaping, and the pathways really are for traveling. So for pedestrians to move through and around the site as needed, but it doesn't have that same plaza feeling. Again, depending on community priorities and anticipated use of the area. One thing I'll just mention briefly, a difference between the plans we're looking at right now and the plans that were included in your packet. The plans that were in the packet included the plantings in the areas, so specific plantings. They were more colorful, and we simplified these to talk about this evening, just so that we make sure we're on the same page again regarding use and the shape of the plaza. The plantings will then be added as the next step, but we didn't want to distract from tonight's discussion with those elements. So graphically, that is one of the differences. The only thing we left in terms of specific plantings on these plans are the 2 existing trees that we propose maintaining. So one near the southern property line and one at the northwest corner. Moving to the entry and the northern portion of the plaza area. I'll zoom in a little bit. So these are the 1 accessible parking spot that we're proposing adding along Gower, and then the 2nd parallel parking spot, which would be time restricted for drop-offs primarily. There would be a curbless transition here between the parking space and the sidewalk, the plaza area, to make that accessibility a little easier. In this option 1, we would be looking at a ramp to get up to the building elevation, starting, if you can see where my mouse is, coming up a ramp, a single switchback up into the building entry landing, and then into the building. I will note that we're proposing right now, the design is to keep the finished floor elevation, the height of the building, pretty consistent with what it is now. So it would remain at approximately the same elevation. We did review options for lowering the building in order to lessen this transition of grade change at the front. That does present challenges on the east side of the building because the whole site slopes up towards the east. Option 2, again, looking at the entry area. The parking spaces are the same. In this one, the ramp works a little bit differently. Someone parks here, potentially gets out of the driver's side. There's a accessible ramp here, and then the idea would be the ramp would come up and around this corner of the building. So it changes the approach just a little bit. And then this one includes a couple planters out front and a couple different steps up to that entry plaza. So that is my brief overview, an invitation for questions or comments or feedbacks or things that aren't working or things that are working.
What is the green? Is the green grass then that you're looking at, or is that is that pavement or?
So the green is some variety of plantings. It likely won't be grass. I know, like I said, in the versions included in your packet, there are specific plantings. So Joyce has put together planting priorities of natives and other elk resistant plants that would be incorporated in the green areas. Exactly which species go where isn't depicted on these specific plans.
And the ramps have railings the entire length of them?
They would have handrails the entire length, both sides of them. So in both of these, what we have been coordinating with Civil is areas of sidewalk that are slightly sloped to get us up as far as we can, and then shorter distances of more formal ramps with landings and handrails.
And the stairs would have railings as well, right?
Yes, the stairs would all have railings both sides.
Do you know, I mean, can you tell, you sort of think you can guess, but it may not be true. Does one have a lot more impermeable surface than the other?
So I would say that the biggest difference is on the south area in that plaza where we've enlarged the hardscape. So the hardscape would be impermeable.
Okay.
What's the cost comparison between the two? Do you have any ballpark figures on that?
We don't have ballpark figures on it. So the hardscape again would be somewhat more expensive typically than plantings.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the numbers to go along with that. The option one with the plaza is an amenity if that's desired.
And then both 1 and 2 looks like they have, are they planters that are surrounded by the hardscape?
Yes, so
Raised planters that have a bench around them, or what's?
yes, so in option one here, if we look at the southern part, this where it widens out here in white, that's envisioned as a bench. And this is envisioned as primarily a raised planter with potential seating around it. So low walls for sitting. And this portion, this was also considered as a potential area for seating. In option 2, there's no seating areas on the south side, but these planters up front would have low walls that could incorporate benches and seating. There is also a potential to incorporate seating here as you approach the steps. And I will point out here that this dashed line on both of these represents the extent of the canopy above. So anything under the area that's dashed here would be covered.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna pipe in with one comment, and I don't know if Emmerich is on, but we had shown plaza area before, so what we're looking at should be within scope of what we were looking at before from a hardscape standpoint.
And the hardscape is a paver product?
That it's envisioned to be a paver type product, yes.
In all of the plan for, for the entire facility, is there other places for staff to go out and have lunch? Other than the plaza?
There's another small area on the east side of the building that is an area where a picnic table could be located for staff.
Which one would be more expensive to maintain? And who takes care of?
AJ,
Huh? AJ,
AJ.
okay, I thought because
yeah, it's,
some of it's changed.
Whoever's mayor at the time.
Oh, we're in trouble.
The mayor's office.
Oh, good, that people have been asking me where my office is.
mayor staff.
Has staff reviewed and any opinion about these two?
No opinion.
Have they reviewed it? Or are we the first ones to see it?
You know, Rusty and myself review everything that comes through. Staff has reviewed the interiors, but not necessarily the exterior.
Will they get an opportunity to weigh in or?
It depends on what we're talking about for a way in, because we're trying to, we didn't put a step in where staff reviews before council and the staff reviews after council, and they don't want to do what council wanted to do, like you're asking about costs and maintenance and things like that. But the way that the structure has been is it's the design team, which is me, Rusty, and most of the time Jen, and then we bring it straight to you.
I was gonna say from a maintenance standpoint, I don't think you're talking negligible between the two. It'll just be a different area, different type of planting, but it's not, I don't think that is significant change between the two.
Thank you.
And can you give us some idea of scale on the landscape areas? It looks like option 2 has a lot of landscape areas towards the very south side, but more towards the west side. What will that area allow to be planted there?
I know Joyce was looking at a variety of plantings. So in terms of scale, you're right. I believe option 2 allows for potentially larger scale plantings, trees. Also, this dashed line along here on both of these options, that's our 20-foot setback or buffer. So there will be landscape requirements in that area. Between that line and the property line for plantings of trees.
I guess I'm more curious about the areas on the west side and the scale of plantings that can be there. Is it just low things, or can there actually be more substantial plantings there?
So on the west side, there is another function to the plantings on both of these schemes, because there is also a grade change between what we're proposing for the plaza, which we're trying to keep as flat as we can to make it as usable as we can, and the lower parking. So to make up that grade on the west side, we're relying on that landscape strip. And so exactly what that looks like could include potentially boulders or rocks to retain, and then plantings that will help hold that slope. I don't envision very really oversized or large plantings there. Again, next steps would be to go back and then add the detail that we had previously incorporated into whichever version of this is preferred.
And then DRB will look at the detail of one of those two options
Right.
Yes.
at their February meeting.
None likely.
Okay.
But it's just that we want to try to move things forward as quickly as possible. We had the meeting set aside to review some things on in Beach Elementary on the 30th, I think it is. And what we are recommending is that we bring back the entire design for City Hall and have the council, review, comment, approve, whatever, everything before it gets into the DRB hopper. So that instead of February, it's likely to get to them in March.
Okay.
But like adding this piece now, when you've been a while since you've seen the rest of it, we want to make sure that you get one look at the whole thing.
Well, I think I prefer option one, both the public space, the plantings along the west side, and the configuration of the ramp in relationship to the parking. Is it time to give our opinions?
Apparently it is.
So,
No, I have to wait.
the covered area for both is exactly the same, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, I like the covered ramp in option 2, but I do like the plaza in option 1.
Yeah, I like the plaza in option 1.
Yeah.
I think option 1 is more aesthetically pleasing. But the only thing I wish is that there was some, there was some kind of paver we could use that allowed water to go through, like that was more permeable. That's the only thing that bothers me about that area is that it's impermeable, right?
Mhm. So that's a discussion we've had both with the civil engineers and with our sustainability consultant. The pros and cons of using a permeable paver out here. The problem that gets run into is that the maintenance on those permeable pavers is much, much higher than impermeable versions. So while they're impermeable, the stormwater that collects on them may still be collected on site. So how that's managed is in process. It doesn't mean that it will become part of the system larger, but again, the maintenance on the permeable pavers has discouraged us.
Is it because of weeds growing in it?
Did you hear that, Leslie?
Oh, I wasn't sure if Jennifer was about to chime in.
Leslie, is the extra maintenance because of weeds growing in the permeable pavers?
I think that's part of it. I think there's several variations on permeable pavement and systems. And yes, things growing in them, I think does increase the maintenance.
What my understanding, and Leslie's actually has far more expertise in this area, but my understanding from the maintenance standpoint is that they can get silted up. And when they get silted up, they no longer are permeable and then they're impermeable. So then we have to look at treating the site as if they're impermeable, which is what we're doing. I want to reiterate all the site water will be taken into a site water system. So it's not like this will run off to some other place. It's still going to be treated on site through other landscaping measures. But that's my understanding is that maintenance cost is to keep it from getting silted up and no longer being permeable.
To Brandon's point, as far as the covered ramp, does anybody else have any thoughts about that? It seems to me like it's a trade-off because to get to that ramp, you'd pretty much have to go farther ways, exposed to get to the covered area.
That's a good point, Gary. I also like the flow of the right angle versus the,
The tight hairpin turn.
I'm sure there's space allowed for the switchback, but I wrestle with that. With the spacing of it.
Mhm.
I mean, you think that one is easier? Is that what you're saying?
That's my opinion. No, two,
Two would be easier to handle.
I would think so. I could be wrong.
Just for the easy 90-degree right turn rather than the hairpin.
Can you turn a wheelchair around in that number one option on the ramp?
Yes. So the landings on any of them are at least they're 5 foot by 5 foot so that you can fit a 5 foot diameter circle in there and turn a wheelchair around.
So with your mouse, would you park a car and show us in each option how they're gonna get in the building?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see, so let me get more of my tools here working.
Your mouse is making me dizzy.
She's using things you can't see.
That's what I was afraid of.
Did she get in the car?
Yeah.
She's
Making the car first.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm having a hiccup here.
I see your boxes on the
Oh.
top of the page. If that
Okay,
helps.
they were covered up by Zoom.
Okay.
So I think now I've got it.
Rusty's fault.
So now one question here, parking a car, there's two options here. If you're a driver in a car and you're going to exit from the driver's side, or if this is more of a van situation where someone is unloading on the passenger side. So I'll just assume driver side. So you're exiting this way. In option one, you're either going to the curb ramp this way, depending on if someone is in this parking space, you could go either way. If you go to the curb ramp, you're walking up here and then up the ramp to the building landing.
Okay.
Option two, if you're exiting the driver's side to the curb ramp, you'd be coming pretty straight down and then up the ramp into the building entry.
But distance isn't that much different.
No, it isn't. That's kind of what I wanted to. Either way.
And will there be much of a grade change for option two from the point of the parked car to the beginning of the ramp?
So in either one, there is about a 5% grade change. In option one, it's along here. So this sidewalk is going up to shorten the overall length of the ramp. In option two, there'll be a 4 to 5% grade change along this stretch. So either one has an area of sloped sidewalk before you get to the ramp entry.
But still within the ADA parameters.
Yes.
Just a quick 5% we can do without handrails on the side. Once we go above that, which is what the ramps are, they're 8.3%. They require the handrails. And I would just let you know that at nauseum, they explored which area the ADA stall should be, because trying to make sure that we could get the least amount of slope possible. And so not only using the sidewalk, but we want to have a really that flat surface that she talked about. So if a van accessible drives in and they need to unload someone, there's actually 8 foot clear for that offloading aisle.
So right here, this is a flat area for if a van pulls up and needs to load and unload passengers more comfortably. And that is true in either option.
So the reason that the ADA stall kept reappearing back in the back spot for us is because we needed that clear 8 foot space to really provide the best service we could provide to someone with mobility needs.
So we reviewed putting the ADA stall here, which is what Jennifer is talking about, to get it closer to that ramp. But because of that flat area next to it, and because we're sloping the sidewalk up, we couldn't make the levels work.
And what is the window configuration on council chambers?
We have windows in 2 corners.
So on one corner, it kind of looks out at the ramp.
Yes. Now we can look at the window sill to make that feel comfortable and have the ramp below it. But that's true.
Is there any way for, I mean, is there going to be some kind of a barrier where the, on number 1, where you have the right turn there? Is there gonna be a barrier there, or can somebody just cut across from the parking lot to the ramp without having to go all the way down and then around to the ramp?
There is no barrier there, so you could come this way, walk between the cars, and get to the ramp that way.
But that corner, where the corner is, where the, like if the wheelchair was turned, there's no barrier there that somebody could just walk right across there without having to go down the first ramp.
This corner,
Yeah,
so this will be higher up.
okay.
So because this is an 8.3% slope up, there would be a small stem wall because the landing will be elevated.
Okay.
So my boy you just saw would try to go through it, but the rest of us probably would walk around.
I'm still option 1 with both the north and the south.
So you're saying take option 1 as is right now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we need that outdoor space and make sure that there's seating and it feels nicely framed by landscaping.
Yeah, I kind of like that too.
Still leaning towards the L ramp on option 2 or any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's just my personal bias towards it as it's set up, but I can certainly go with the the consensus of the council on it. I think the plaza part is more important to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the ramp is certainly important to have. I'd like it to be the most functional that it can. And I'm sure both of them will do that.
And I like option one. But I'm just bothered by, I just would always sort of lean towards the less impermeable surface, the better. So that's the only thing that's holding me back from option one.
But then I look down at at the maintenance issues.
Well, option two, as it is, I don't think was said to have any more maintenance issues than option one.
I met with the different surfaces.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I have pavers at my house and it's just, things grow up between them all the time. It's a big mess. It's just one little path. So I know that that's true. I just wish there was, a way to, I don't know.
At the bottom of option two, are those steps?
Yes. So in both option one and two, there are steps shown. Option one has steps here. The idea to these steps would be that this larger plaza area be more flat so that it's more usable. And then this area of pathway would be sloped. Option two, these are steps as well. Again, because of the grade change from this lower parking, it makes the rest of this much more flat.
But they wouldn't, the area that, on option one is not a ramp, it's still just a slope sidewalk at 5%.
Yes.
When you say a slope sidewalk though, on option one, on the west side of that little green, almost a letter C, on option one, if you could maybe get your pointer over there.
Option one.
Option one here.
Yeah, not there, but just farther south.
Mhm.
South, yeah, that. When you say sloped, do you mean it's sloped to the west?
No, it's rising to the north. So
okay,
this is the low point.
All right.
This would be all higher.
Okay.
Jan, you have a quick question?
Yeah, do I need to say my name and everything? Do I need to go up there?
If it's quick, just do it from there.
Oh, just do, okay. So I just had a question about here. On number one, would this green area be extended like it is here to have it a little more landscape space? Would that be okay? If you're gonna go with number one?
I can't see
No
what you're
idea.
talking about.
You see it?
No, you want to come up here?
Okay.
What's the password?
So you see how this here, the green space continues to the edge of this. And then here, it just stops and I'm not sure why. Could it be extended to here? Just like.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So make
Is it-
both green spaces equal
Yeah.
in that one
Just
spot.
the way they end up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you getting that, Leslie?
I was trying to look really closely at the screen out in the distance, and I couldn't quite follow.
On option two, it's got the bed that goes from essentially the door all the way to the end of the building. Is it possible on option one to extend the bed from the door to the edge of the building?
We're
Yes.
talking here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, it's possible to extend that. We had explored putting a door there. The only caveat I would say that would limit it is making sure that we have sufficient pathway width there. But there's absolutely no reason we couldn't extend that landscaping.
And with that nice curved corner.
Right, by curving the corner, then we have more, it reduces the possible pinch point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wouldn't argue with that.
No, it makes me like option one better. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, so option one, everyone?
With that little change.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. We will continue full steam ahead, option one.
Okay, thanks.
And I was gonna just say one thing, just to reiterate, we'll come back and show you everything as Bruce said. So, you know, we've been working through this and really feel it would be important to do that. So we'll work with Bruce and Jen to make sure that we can come in front of you and show you the full package. In case you have any reservations, we can adjust them.
And probably on the 30th
Of January.
January.
So that was one of our possible council meetings. Is that going to be a confirmed council meeting now?
Kind of sounds like it.
I believe so. We're gonna confirm that that's gonna go on the 30th.
Yes.
Okay, yep. I will update your calendar invite to
Thank you.
official meeting.
Oh, great.
And when is the,
That's nice.
on the calendar, I can't tell when it went, which is when. When is the Herb Works?
That is, I believe, the 31st.
31st, the housing,
Yeah,
the housing meeting.
And that's the housing meeting. And when is the Herb Works wetlands?
I believe you guys are still at the planning commission level at this time. So planning commission, the next step, I believe, would be then making a recommendation to council. We would do a hearing notice and then it would go to council.
Do you know when that is? Is that-
Because it's dependent on when planning commission makes their recommendation.
No. Oh, so planning commission doesn't have it on their calendar at this point.
I believe that would be there. So a planning commission agenda went out today for their makeup December session. Their January meeting packet hasn't gone out yet, so I believe it should be in the regular January meeting packet that.
Okay. Okay.
We had to double up this month on meetings to make up the December one.
Okay.
So when is the December makeup meeting?
Next
Third,
Wednesday,
17th, I think.
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay,
So next week we'll have a council meeting on Tuesday. Planning commission will do their makeup December meeting on Wednesday and DRB meets Thursday. And then the following week, it's like the 25th or something.
23rd.
Planning commission will have their regularly scheduled January meeting, which is when they should be discussing it again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little funky because we're doing that makeup meeting because we didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it just keeps moving
Yep.
forward.
And
Yeah.
then once they make that recommendation to council, we'll post a hearing notice and then we'll come to council.
Okay. Thanks.
okay, so we're ready for good of the order? Anybody have anything good of the order?
Nothing.
Did we talk about our meeting last night?
Yes, I think we need to.
I mean, what do we wanna? I mean, we should obviously have a public meeting where we deliberate, but
I think purpose tonight would just be our initial reactions to what we heard.
Well, I sure like the format. I gotta say, that was
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
I like to be able to,
respond.
oh, yeah,
interact a
right,
little
such a
bit,
difference.
and-
Yeah.
I think they appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Should so.
The audience appreciated it.
But I do worry a little bit about, we can't run our meetings like that all the time.
No, we'd be here till 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of them.
So they have to be able to see the format has to be something that can be like a one item agenda
Right,
where there's all that
I
discussion.
agree.
Mayor was very lenient in giving them
Oh, I know.
whatever time they wanted.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, I think it
That
worked.
was hard for me, but
Why?
I did.
At times it was challenging, but
Well,
I want to go wrap it up.
it cuts down on animosity when people are allowed to finish their thought and not being cut off in the middle, and when we're able to respond rather than sit here like statues.
and maybe actually extend it by asking questions or
Right.
providing
That was great.
feedback and response right then rather than.
Now, what is disappointing to me is I have read a lot of letters and heard feedback from a lot of people who love the plan, you know, the idea as it is, and only one person spoke last night in favor of it. And all those people who I've heard from at Coffee with the Counselors, at, you know, at other meetings, just didn't say anything last night, and probably because they already had.
Yeah.
And so they don't feel like they got to constantly be saying it over and over again. You know, they said, I gave my opinion and that should be enough. But whereas it seemed like the people who were dissatisfied with it have, you know, spoken many times, some of them. And so it sort of makes things a little, it seems unbalanced to me.
Right.
Yeah,
It's clearly an organized effort, opposing.
yeah.
It's obviously not an organized effort to get
No.
people to repeat, we want it, we want it, we want
Right,
it.
right.
And people that are for the project that have sent an additional letter said, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record.
Right.
And one of them said,
Right.
so I mean, we have to remember that all of the people that are in favor of it feel like they have already.
But it seems that from listening to what people said last night, a lot of them haven't seen those letters in favor of it. They actually haven't. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's because it's hard to access or it's confusing where they are, or they
think both.
they sort of dribble in.
Well,
No.
when we got multiple letters from the same group of people, it's also difficult to sort through, but you know, that 1128 packet I thought was a good example of
Yeah,
a cross section.
But if somebody wants to see all the letters that have come in, they're not gonna go through each packet
right.
per council meeting, so I don't know if that's possible. We need to get those letters and put them in
One place.
like the website that we have for the.
Yes.
Okay, so the history on that was initially we did when we were first asking people's input, and then everything died down. You know, we were hiring an architect, we're going through this process, and then slowly we've started asking for more input, but it's not been consistent. So it's always been in the packet. So that's where all of the correspondence is.
Yeah, but-
One of the things we're running into though is people are using that as a way to get their information out to other citizens and not to council. And so that's where a lot of this
Yeah.
comments about I can't find this are coming from, because somebody says, well, I sent a letter, why isn't it on the website? Well, you sent it after the deadline. If you send it after the deadline, we're not gonna post it on the website. So that's where that's coming from. We could start going on and putting it back on there now, but what typically tends to happen is we stop because we don't need the input, then something else flares up and we kind of go back to it. So we can definitely start doing it. But we do need to have some deadlines and timeframes, and, you know, I guess that would be the thing, is the difference of being in a packet versus just appearing on the website. We would need to have some kind of,
Like a little tab, this is.
well, we have a tab, but just kind of people to understand the difference of being in the packet and being on the website. Because that's where people get confused. They want it in the packet. Well, if you want it in the packet, it needs to come in on time.
Yeah, and if it was just, everything was on I know it's hard to do because, for example, Hannah Bouchard's letter, I got 3 copies of it, you know, one just came into the council, one through Lolly forwarding it, one, and there was a third.
Yeah, there was.
We got it. So you have 3, you know, you don't want you don't want 3 copies of one letter. You know, the same letter on.
Yeah, because she sent it to Jennifer and Jennifer sent it to
Right.
us and we got it.
To us
And
directly.
we got it directly.
from Raleigh and-
And that just muddies the water. That's not, you know, that's not 3 different opinions. It's one opinion.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult.
I
Yeah,
re-
it is challenging.
I really wish we could convince our citizens that they send the letter through the regular channels and nobody else sends it with other highlights. Just let each person
luck.
talk about the, send it to
Happen.
individually. And all of the, second and third sendings of it with highlights in certain spots being done by somebody else, even if you have their permission. I just wish we could stop that.
But that particular person wants their mailing list to see that letter. And they're not,
Tell their,
and
then tell their mailing list, there's a letter in the packet
That's not gonna happen.
from an individual.
That's just not
I'm
gonna
just saying
happen.
that's what I would.
It would be nice, but yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Well,
You might have another problem too, is that if we start taking the position that all letters will be on the website. Well, what happens if my letter's not in there?
what happens if what?
My letter's not in there.
Yeah.
So the expectation, I mean, somehow did the city fail? I don't know if we would have received it. I don't know how we were supposed to get it. But it's like if you set this expectation that everything is going to be in this location, and then somehow a letter came in a different way and somebody didn't put it in. If we set this expectation, I think that there's a problem there in.
But there already is, Bruce. I mean, that same problem already exists because people complain that their letter is not, because they sent it in late. So they complain that wasn't in the packet. I mean,
Before us,
no way seems to make everybody satisfied. I don't know how you do it.
correspondence packets all be in one place where they could more easily be accessible rather than popping to each meeting and grabbing the packet and popping back to the next meeting and grabbing the packet.
Go back to what Bruce just said about when you miss one, everyone comes unglued when you miss one.
But I mean, if it's in the packet, it's in the packet.
It's in the packet, and they can find it. But if we wanted to make sure that everything is in one central location, like on the Cannon Beach Elementary page, then you run into the if I missed one kind of situation.
I'm just talking about, can we collect the packets in one place so it's not,
Oh, well, the packets are all on the meeting page in one spot.
they're all.
Separated
by
by date.
You have to go to each
Yeah.
meeting
Yeah.
to get the packet, and then and then find the date of the next meeting and go to the packet. And if there was one spot on the Cannon Beach Elementary project page that said, here are the packets for the different meetings.
And those are just the ones that met the deadline.
Right.
Right.
Oh, so put a link.
And
So we could literally on that one section, put a link to all the meeting packets that have correspondence in it.
Yeah, I think it probably.
Would it be one link?
Well, it would be one link for each packet.
Okay.
I would,
So you're going back to what Bruce.
It would still be easier than
Well-
having to figure out what all the meeting dates were and
There's actually,
meeting and download the packet and.
But if everything that's in the packet is what's received by deadline.
By 3 p.m. the day before. And it's either, so your packet goes out a week early, so if I get it early, it's in the packet. Anything after the packet goes under other attachments, and it's listed as correspondence received after the packet was distributed. And so everything that gets there by 3 p.m. the day before is on there.
Is part of the record.
It's part of the record.
Right.
And the ones that people are complaining about are the ones that came in after 3 p.m. But again, they're using it not as public comment for council to read their constituents' thoughts. They're using it as public comment for other people to read their thoughts.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Let each person,
most of the meetings that you're talking about have already been documented under current announcements. If you look there, that's all the meetings that we've been having. If you click on those, it'll go to the page where all the packets are.
so go ahead, click on.
So like you were asking about the 28th, for instance, if you went and clicked on the link that's there, you could go down and their packet is right down here. Actually, why isn't the packet on this one?
There was no packet, it was just.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, it's down here under the public input. How did we do?
And then you back up to the page, or we're opening in other tabs, or.
Let's go one at a time here.
So that would be the same way we've done it in the past for everything else.
Mhm.
We were collecting it and putting it on the website. But then we ran into people, if you miss one, it's the same thing. But the dune grading was a specific time period, so it was easier to manage because it was between here and there. And it's kind of like when you have any of those big cases, like the Roberts case, trust me, if you miss somebody's letter, they let you know and we get it added on, because you kind of have a time frame that you're putting it on. In the situation of the elementary school, we were putting stuff on and then we stopped getting public input. We weren't talking about it as much. We were doing other information.
Well, how difficult is it on that page? Link to each of the correspondence packets.
A link to the meeting, which has all the information on.
Right, so you can,
So that's
you can
already there.
do 2 jumps.
Yeah.
And then back up twice. I'm just trying to think of a way to make it.
No, it just worked so well with the dunes thing. It worked so well to have everything there.
Well, we can move forward doing that, but that would be a moving forward thing.
We're not gonna go back.
We're not gonna go, well, I would prefer not to go back, please, because that's a lot of information. The other part is we get information in between meetings when we don't have a meeting scheduled. And so that's not gonna appear in a packet because people are just sharing their opinion. We don't have a meeting coming up. And so how do I differ? I mean, because that's what's come up before too. In between stuff, we don't
Right.
have anything scheduled. Somebody's heard something else, so they send you guys a letter. But that's not necessarily gonna be in a packet.
I'm not suggesting
Right, but
we
it,
do anything with those.
No, but this is, if I don't put it on there, then, I'm just saying where people complain.
but if we had that if we had that, like the dune thing, then it could go in there. Oh, a letter came in about this. Bam, just throw it in there.
And we can do that moving forward if that's what you want, but we go back to where Bruce had noted his concern on it.
Well, if one gets missed, it's the person's responsibility to let you know.
Yeah.
I sent a letter in, I don't see it on the website.
And
I
that,
would rather have it be their responsibility to get it in the packet.
exactly, and where my real concern is gonna be with land use issues. Because if something's not in the packet and we set an expectation that it should be in the packet, then I might have a cause because you didn't put it in, and why didn't you put it in, those kind of things. How big of a problem is this because somebody said, I didn't see that letter? We can provide them a copy of the letter if they heard that such and such wrote a letter. But we're spending a lot in trying to set this level of perfection that you will be able to find absolutely everything on these cases. When I'm not sure the problem is that big, but to me, the downside is. And it's all additional things that staff is gonna be working on. We're
I
gonna be
think-
having to break out the letters now. Because you can't just send them to the meeting. You gotta break out every one of those.
Yeah, I think the question was, in terms of the level of support that we were getting, the kinds of supportive letters we were getting versus.
Oh, I
letters that
understand.
were Opposing it.
But in my thought has always been, what does that tell you? You know, if I write 100 letters and you write 1, is it 100 to 1? I mean, I never really did think that the number of letters you receive is an indicator of what the percentage is out in the public. So even to be able to go ahead and do that, I don't, you know.
No, but you don't see that, but I think the public sees it that way. They see, there was 20 letters opposing this and we didn't see, and they saw maybe 2 or 3.
But what effort did they
Favorite.
put in to see them?
Hmm?
What effort did they put in to see them?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they need to be trained to get them in the packet and make the packets more available.
Well, I know that a letter came in, at least I was told someone texted me and said, I wrote a letter. And I looked everywhere for it and couldn't find it.
But
It's probably because it was late.
Well, no, because if it was late, you would have got it. I still send it to you guys if it's late.
Yeah.
Then I didn't get it.
Yeah, I don't know
Because I
why.
send it to you guys if it's late, it just doesn't go on the website.
Yeah,
About
if it's
4
not
times.
in the packet, then the answer to why isn't my letter represented is because it wasn't in the
Didn't
packet.
meet the deadline.
Well, but even outside of that, if they sent it out of the deadline, you guys as council will still receive.
We've seen it, but it
Right, but
doesn't
we
have
say
that
we
kind of,
see it. So then if.
Yeah, I didn't.
But then that means I didn't have it,
Okay.
because if I had it, I would send it to you
Yeah.
guys. And after the deadline, I also text you to say such and such
Yeah.
came in afterwards,
Yeah.
so that way you're aware of
I
it.
don't know where.
we definitely see it.
So.
I just think we could make it easier to find, make it easier to access all of the packets and,
it's right there.
and train people to, I know, it's,
Yeah, it's right there. I just,
Train people.
because what we're doing is we're just putting another thing on staff to try to make it perfect.
Yeah, that's what I want to make sure that we're careful about is we know that the staff has a lot of
Right.
things to do. I think it's a personal responsibility for each citizen. If they really want to see that information, they're gonna click the mouse 3 times.
Okay.
And that, or else they call it,
And they're gonna meet the deadlines.
and
Yeah.
at least
That's
it's,
part of the education.
but in the example that Lisa just brought up, it's like, okay, when did you send the letter? What was the name? And they can call Jen, I can call you, can call me, I can ask Jen to get that letter. That's just a matter of finding a letter. Which apparently nobody has seen, so maybe it wasn't even written, so we would all be chasing our tails trying to find it. And what difference would it have made if that letter had come in? You probably, if it came in, you may have seen it. You may, I don't.
I think if the
So they-
public
did they
wants their
call you?
letters to be available, they need to get it in the packet.
Right.
Before 3 p.m. the day before the meeting.
Jan, quickly.
Yes, Jan Siebert Warman, could I just say, as a citizen, I would like to very much see every letter that you folks receive as my representatives.
Then,
And why couldn't
then
we-
get it in
No,
according to the deadline.
here's another suggestion. And I'd like to hear what you think too, Jen. If the letter does not get into the packet and it doesn't get into the other category, could not we have the letter come into the next council packet? And then that way we would always see all the letters.
And nobody's gonna ever meet a deadline.
Well, and then the other problem
They
you have
will.
is
If
it's
they-
past, it's no longer relevant sometimes.
Because the decision's already been made.
Still, I personally would like to see all the letters that you folks get. Because sometimes I hear about a letter and you folks have gotten it, but I'm a citizen and I haven't seen it. I'm just asking, I think that would be a really good solution.
Would be
If it doesn't get in the packet, then it's not considered the same as if it's late. But at least the citizenry, it's public record. We should be able to read the
It
public.
is public record and anyone
It's
is welcome to
public
see anything at any time if they complete a records request too, though.
Yes, but that's a big deal. And if it's just,
No, I know that.
if you
I
guys
never
are
did
able
that.
to see it as representatives, why can't the public see it as citizens?
They can, but we don't want to create a nightmare for city
That-
staff.
It would really require Jennifer to be chasing down letters that some people that, have been claimed that haven't been seen.
You
I don't know
are
if that's a good
getting-
thing to do.
That's the point. You're already getting them from Jen. Why can't the public get them at the same time? She could put them into the next month's bunch of letters.
Sounds like
And
it.
if we did, we got the same situation, I think, Jen, that we had when they were all there, but who knows what packet to go in and find the letter. So we're still involved.
And they would get that whole screen that you just saw and okay, I sent it late, so which meeting is it gonna be in?
And that's why I'm saying that we're chasing perfection. We want to make sure that everybody can see every letter in case they want to. And I'm not sure if the problem is that bad because somebody said, well, you didn't see my letter or I didn't see the copy of that letter. If it really changed the dynamic of anything that you're working on. And that's chasing, for the perfection to be able to go ahead and say, yes, you should have seen that, or you can look at it here.
Well, I think
I'd
you
rather
ask,
people to get it in the packet.
I train them. I mean, I don't understand what that means.
Educate people what a deadline means.
I think that what has happened now is that the public perception is that there has been so many letters against the project and almost none in favor of it. That's not actually true, but that's what people see, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why that is. It is the public perception, though. And, I mean, Gary even said he counted the letters and somebody else counted them differently. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that I think,
Count them now for 11/28.
No,
I don't know,
Pretty easy count for me.
that people who are disgruntled will always be louder and more vocal about that's human nature.
Yeah.
It is. I am that way too. When something bothers me,
Yep.
I speak more.
Yep.
That's how that's human behavior. So I think that what's happening is the people who are in favor of it say it once, that's it, that's the end of it. I wrote my letter. I shouldn't have to say same thing again. And, you know, there's other people who've written maybe 4 or 5 letters.
Mhm.
You know, so
Okay, so
I don't know what the solution is, but I really wish,
I'd like.
I sure-
other things before.
I sure like, the idea from now on, just doing it like we did the dunes, if that's possible.
But the dunes was a limited time.
Well,
This is,
let's hope this is a limit.
I hope this is a limited time too.
I mean, it's not gonna, it's,
It's over a year now.
Yeah, but we're gonna make a decision.
Yeah, and then
Soon.
depending on the decision,
Make
we're gonna be, another 6 months, who knows what. And Jen is training 2 people, so those people aren't gonna be able to help. And so it's like, how much, you know, you
Okay,
can ask.
we have to remember capacity.
Yeah.
Capacity is important.
okay.
So we're gonna stress that people get it in based on deadlines. And starting today, we're gonna have those available. Well, they already are.
They're already there, yeah.
Yeah.
I usually put them on there. I didn't get today's, but
Yes.
When you say stress, do you mean talk about it at a meeting? Talk about it at meetings? How do you
In terms,
how do you educate people?
we talk about it at a meeting.
It's
Okay.
also on the web, on each agenda, it has the deadlines listed on the agenda.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna really educate people on how to do it, how to get their letter in time, we have to make a much more concerted effort at each meeting to
Mhm.
bring this up,
We also-
especially a meeting like yesterday.
Mhm.
That if you,
Maybe when we open public comment, every time that there's a
Yeah.
statement about that.
Yeah.
But until people get it.
Mhm.
And when we created that deadline, we did put notices in the bulletin back when we created it, but it's been a while. But of course, our bulletin's kind of hard to get done right now also, but
Yeah.
when we get that back up, we can continue adding that in there as a reminder
Mhm.
of the deadlines.
yeah, and it might be in the bulletin, but I don't know how many people.
But now we don't have a.
No, I know, but I don't know how many people read it. I mean, just,
So on another note,
Yes.
I was particularly struck by the opposition, which is over here and it's over here and somewhere in the middle. And it was really interesting to hear some of that, especially when we were able to follow up with people. So we got people who say, let's tear it all down. We shouldn't have it here. We say people, you know, we had people, obviously we've got people who want the full project. Then we've got people that are somewhere in this reduction of scope from, we don't need windows, we just need it to come up to code. And it's like, whatever we do, there's going to be some group of the opposition to us moving forward that is going to be upset. And I find that puts us in this interesting position, which I guess that's what we signed up for, is to do the deep dive ourselves, try to acknowledge people's concerns and make the best choice we can for the community. But I am struck by that wide range.
right, which is what makes it absolutely impossible to do a referendum, because it's not either or. It's all these different iterations.
offer a multiple choice.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be a minute.
How to do
In an order of preference, 1 through 5. I mean,
for one choice on a ballot measure anyway, so you can't.
so it would, there's no way to do, I mean, someone did suggest that, but it, you know, I don't see how you.
Plus the timeline.
Possible.
Oh, you wouldn't want
That.
that, you can't.
You know, I mean, I think that's one thing that I'm convinced of is that it's not gonna go
Oh,
on a ballot.
No,
That's
no.
Oh, it can't.
Yeah.
How, you
Yeah.
can't have all those choices.
Right.
But that was one of my big takeaways, other than I thought the process was good and it was good to be able to talk about housing. And it doesn't necessarily apply to this, especially as far as the funding goes. And there's people who think we're ignoring housing, and it's just like,
Yeah, that was
You
a
know.
good message to get out.
Which reminds me, if we're having that housing meeting on the 31st of January, are we having it here?
We're still working out all the details. So we have an email into Jim Pano and we've been trying to talk about ways that we can better the situation because there's a struggle because if they have a computer where people can do Zoom, but in the main room, they're watching via YouTube and there's a delay with the YouTube. And so Rusty was contacting Jim, I think, to kind of work through a couple different things on ways that we can do that. And then in the meantime, they had a meeting with Marcy, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I saw a follow-up email about different things that we talked about and ways that they were working on the flyer and where we're gonna distribute the flyer and all of that.
Okay, because I'm gonna say, once you get those details worked out, we really need to start pushing to let people know that it's going to happen, because that's not very far away.
They have been working on a flyer that's bilingual and we have an entire list of where we want to do it. And I'm also contacting the post office to do the direct DMs or something. And so that's one of the things on our list. And like I said, I didn't quite read their full email, but I know that they met because Steve told me they did. And he said they sent a follow-up email on where they're at with things.
Okay,
So I know they're moving forward with it.
good, okay.
I thought one of the best comments last night about housing was the comment that it isn't a money problem as much as a geographical problem.
Mhm.
And that if we have, whatever solution we do has to be in conjunction with the county. That makes so much more sense to me than,
Yeah,
you
to
know.
a point, there's certainly things that we can do that while they're not cost-free, they are things that we can legislate as a city, and that'll come up during the code audit.
Right. Yeah,
So, I mean, I guess I'm saying there are other ways.
yeah,
to
but
go
given the
about this
cost of
other-
land, I don't know how effective those will be.
It just depends on what we're willing to do.
It does.
There has to be sacrifices on
Yeah,
many sides
I
to get.
I don't think we can just say that we're gonna solve it as a county thing. I think we have to hit this from every angle we can.
And the more I've been involved with the county task force, they're all really, every city that's involved in it has the same problems we do.
Right.
You know, you can assume that a city like Warrenton is able to build its way out of it, but it's not necessarily the case.
Yes.
Money is an issue too.
Yeah.
But
But it
geography.
depends too,
And never was.
you know, I think Warrenton has done a lot of building with absolutely no consideration for the physical environment.
Well, that may be.
On wetlands and and cutting down trees all over the place in Warrenton. And I've seen it and I've, you know, listened to meetings. And so I don't, you know, that's certainly, it's a whole different issue than it is here.
Okay, I mean, that's a fair point. But I just don't feel like I want to just rely on the idea that we can handle it as a county.
No, I think that's one of the prongs, but I also agree, like, for example, when Chet came in with his ideas, that was like a big eye opener to me. You know, and that was one of the reasons I asked, I would like more information on the capacity of the RV park. Because if it isn't in full capacity, that would be a great place to do a couple of his idea, you know, the experimental project of a couple duplexes in there of middle income or workforce duplexes. So I guess it's workforce. I don't know how the definitions have gotten so murky between middle income and workforce, but anyway, I just think there are ways of doing it. I think it's defeatist to say you have to wreck your environment to have more housing. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive at all. I think there are very creative ways to do it, and Chet's ideas were creative to me.
Chet is Chet gonna be one of the speakers the 31st? I don't think so. Is that?
Now I was hoping he would be, but
I believe it's just the person from Clatsop County.
We need to make sure.
Alyssa,
Yeah, we need to make sure that all of their nonprofit board is invited, because I think they're a good resource.
Yeah.
Checks.
Chessboard,
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Well, I'm interested in hearing how we can incentivize increasing density,
And I am as well.
Incentivizing what?
increasing density.
and I don't know what you mean by that, to tell you the truth.
That means incentivizing ADUs and incentivizing duplexes. Maybe there's triplex incentives, but
And all of those are capacity issues too. Water, sewer, all that stuff too has to be taken into account when you get really dense areas of population. Because some areas in Cannon Beach are actually already dense because there were flag lots that were, if you really walk around, I was amazed when I walked through some of the neighborhoods, how many houses were back behind other houses, behind other houses.
Sullivan
There was-
has that,
Yes.
that small lot.
So and there's huge density there in some of those neighborhoods
And some of the
already.
Presidential streets are like that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's not, I just, I think that I'd like to know, when are we going to have a vote on capping STRs?
So that is, you guys have that scheduled for, I have it open. You guys have that as a discussion item at your February 13th work session. So STR discussion and the items of that discussion were the cap, the penalties, raising fees, inactivity clause, not allowing ADU as a primary residence to be used as a rental. Not allowing an ADU primary residence to be used as a rental. So those were the things you talked about at the retreat. And so we'll be discussing those at February 13th.
Okay, all right.
And we all saw the notice for the regional workforce house
Yep.
Yes.
meeting on the 24th.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Good one for us all to go to.
Yeah, so far,
And it's available by Zoom as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't seen them addressing workforce housing as much as I've seen them addressing the homeless crisis, which is really important too, but I'm sure that will change. I'm sure they'll, get to all of it.
I guess I like to use the term housing because we need every kind of housing here.
We don't
We
need.
could use way too expensive rental housing here.
No, we couldn't.
Yeah, we could.
You want more expensive rental housing?
Any.
You talking about long-term
Little.
housing?
Any rental housing.
Oh,
would
long-term.
be-
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Is going to be a benefit here. We'll have to hire a police chief. Sorry. Happy retirement, but we have to hire a police chief. It would be nice to have him living in Cannon Beach.
Yeah.
Right. I think the problem I see with that is there's a lot of vacant, expensive houses in Cannon Beach, very expensive houses that are vacant probably at least 40 weeks of each year. And actually, on one of those, I actually know one of the owners. I sort of approached the idea of, have you ever thought of long-term? And absolutely not. No way, no way.
And
Why-
what are their reasons?
Well, because
Want to come and live?
They don't-
Wanna come and stay for.
Whatever they want to.
for their 2 weeks of the year, they want to come and they don't need the money. And it depreciates their home, having somebody live in it and using, their washing and their washer and their dryer and their furnace, all those things,
Yeah,
I mean.
they want to have their stuff there.
Yeah, they want to keep their china cabinet with all their nice stuff and they don't want people.
And it is only their fifth house, right? I mean,
But that is
It's fun to
really,
complain about, but I'm not sure.
It's
that's
really-
the Solution to that.
yeah, it's really true. Well, vacancy tax, one thing.
Well, we'll see if that one flies.
Yeah, but I think the courts are
Yeah.
Have it now, I thought.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
are we going to be talking any more tonight about some of the ideas that were expressed last night about the school?
So I think we should get back to that.
We were talking about the school and you sidetracked us on housing, but,
It's your fault, Nancy.
Actually, you started that first and I just carried on.
okay. I don't necessarily want to get into my thoughts on,
Because we haven't advertised it.
because yes, I would
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I would want to do it
Yeah.
with people here.
Yeah.
I agree.
I do think though that we need to, say this, we need to realize that how far we are in the process, and how much money we've already spent. And when people talk about us wasting money,
Yeah.
we're gonna waste $1 million if we start all over again and knock everything down.
It would be 2.5.
Yeah.
It would be
2.5
2.5.
million, yeah.
You mean,
We've already spent $1 million.
oh, right, and then the,
1.1, we've bought it for 400 and it's gonna take $1 million to clear it.
Yeah.
So to clear it and go back to an empty lot, it would be $2.5 million.
And that doesn't even start developing the park.
Yeah,
right,
so,
And building a longhouse.
but I don't know if we're starting to get into
right.
our
I did-
discussion of.
But I think that's gotta be something that we communicate when we do have the discussion.
Yeah.
That I think we're too far down the line.
I don't think we can flush the public process that we've been through. You know.
Right.
I'm sorry, some people weren't able to make it, or they didn't get to participate until later, or didn't get fired up until later. But we have gone through this public process and
And I think it's been a really good public process.
you know, it hasn't been perfect, but
Did you see all those meeting dates when Rusty put that on the,
No wonder
Yeah.
we're tired.
God, I knew we met a lot. And that was on that one subject.
Right.
you know, we've had public process, we've pushed it forward, we've spent some money, and it's like, so
And
it's not like we can just throw that out.
and I come back to each citizen's responsibility to stay informed in what's going on in their community. You can't spoon feed everything.
So when would we like to continue this discussion?
But you don't want to stay tonight? No.
I mean,
It has to be
to
public
your
hearing.
point about it
Right,
being in front of them.
right. Well, what do we have
Jenna, working on it.
available?
I thought we were amending the packet for next week to include the discussion. That's what we talked about at
That's
the
right.
beginning of the meeting.
Oh, that's
I
right.
thought we did talk about that.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next week?
So we have the tourism funding discussion. We were gonna add an item afterwards to continue talking about the comments last night.
Okay,
And it's a work
It's
session.
a work session.
if I can, the timeframe is important. We've had discussions about the bond issue. And we were tentatively scheduling the authorizing resolution for February 9th. The competitive sale of the bonds for March 6th. Closing on the bonds, March 27th. What I want to know is when, tell us when you are like, we've made our final decision. Because I don't want to have, we made our final decision and then tell the bond market that we don't know what we're doing. So I'm going to call off these dates for now. We can go ahead and reset them. We could reset them back to the same dates, but I don't want to
This is what I'm curious about. Have we not made a final decision?
No, we haven't.
There was actually something in the process that.
We never had a vote.
One more step. Well, we voted on every step of,
It's except the landscaping. Are you talking
except we
about-
haven't approved the landscaping, yes.
We, as far as the design goes, but I don't know as have we ever had,
Approved the funding, we've approved the design every step of the way.
if that was true, then why would Bruce want a final decision?
I think he's concerned about whether or not we want to change our minds now that we've,
Right. And I don't think we've ever had that.
we haven't had that discussion yet.
And that's what we're going to have. So is that next meeting, that meeting?
Well, but that's a work session unless we can make it a special meeting.
I can add a special meeting after the tourism discussion. If you'd like to be able to vote on something, I can definitely do that. I have the amended agenda ready to get posted tomorrow. I just have to figure out what we're calling it, and then I can just close the work session, open a special meeting. So it's up to you guys how you want to do it.
And that's the 7,
16,
16.
which is next Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday. I keep forgetting today's Wednesday.
Right.
Would you like me to mention other meetings that potentially are available in the month of January?
Let's drag out our calendar.
Other options, is that what you're talking about?
Actually, that's it. The only other one that's really not spoken for would be the last Thursday of the month, which is technically February 1st. On January 30th, we're going to be talking about the DRB application for City Hall.
I think we should have a special meeting. Work session,
Week.
special meeting.
In a week and make a final decision.
I mean, I've heard everything. Not that I'm still not processing and trying to think of, are there ways that we can satisfy some of the concerns? But
I think process. I think yesterday it was a good day in terms of process, that there were good ideas exchanged back and forth. I think that there needs to be a follow-up to that, and I don't know how you want to do it, but a follow-up to that and say, we heard you, we considered it, we talked about it among ourselves, and you'd be invited to the meeting. And then go ahead and say, but this is what we're going to do, or somebody make a motion and say, this is what we're going to do to wrap that up.
at the special meeting that we're talking about,
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
If that's okay from a time standpoint.
By Tuesday of next week.
That's less than a week away.
When are other meetings that are fairly?
So your choice outside of the 16th is we have January 30th, which is the City Hall one that's gonna go to DRB. The 31st is our housing code audit, our housing meeting. And February 1st, which is that same week, but it's a Thursday. I just kind of lumped it in with that week. So the thing with that would go back to what Bruce was talking about, where the bond resolution is scheduled for the first February meeting, which is February 6th.
So we'd make a decision on the 1st and then have a bond resolution on the 6th.
I think,
From a time perspective, just so you know, that packet for the 6th would be out
Oh.
before your meeting on the 1st.
That's not good then.
and I think for the bond, and I think we can possibly wait a little bit for the bond. Push it out a little bit, but to know what all three of the projects are going to be. Is there going to be a change to City Hall? Because we only talked about really Cannon Beach Elementary. Is there going to be a change? What kind of a change, or is there going to be no change for each one of them? Because we need to know the total cost of the projects to set the bond. And
What are you suggesting?
I don't think we have any changes in this City Hall and police station.
so I think that, well,
That's why.
I'm sorry.
We don't know about the changes that we're gonna have to make.
Well, I think that people talked about changes, about it being too big, about that kind of thing for City Hall. I don't know why, for whatever reason, people love police. They can have whatever they want, including helicopters. That I think that they're looking, all right, if we can go ahead and get some kind of an agreement on Cannon Beach Elementary, now we can have the conversation about City Hall, because they really didn't talk about City Hall. It's been about Cannon Beach Elementary. So somehow I think that, and y'all can say that, no, we're gonna do where we started, we're still good. Whatever decision you want to make. But I think that people are expecting that, there was a process, there was discussion about Cannon Beach Elementary. You may make a change, you may not. But I do think that there's an anticipation of some follow-up.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that there's way less public fervor about City Hall.
Yeah.
I just don't see that. I mean, I think some people call it a lavish City Hall. I actually can't even figure out where that comes from. It's one story,
Right.
you know, and it's
The
pretty
same
much the
size
same
as this
size
building
as this building here. So I'm not really sure where that perception is coming from, but I don't, it's a whole lot different than, it's the Cannon Beach Elementary is a different animal entirely than the other two projects. Totally different.
And it's had the most public process.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel real good about City Hall.
I do too. I feel very confident about
Yeah.
this. And I feel that those projects need to move forward and that they're, I really like the way, and we've gotten so much information and financial information and everything. So I feel really good about those. And not that we haven't gotten a lot of information about the elementary school, but that for some reason is like a much more emotional issue than anything else we've done.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I'm just trying to understand the process, but doesn't the City Hall configuration have to still go through the DRB
Yes, it does.
March
So does police.
and the police? So I just wanted to put that in there.
And when about, we had an application for the design review board that came through from, am I the only one? Yeah, you all saw it, right, from Tim Ramey?
Mhm.
So when do we make that decision?
February, he didn't come in before the deadline for the first meeting of this month, so that would go to the February 6th meeting.
Okay, and he knows that?
Yep, I emailed him as soon as
Okay.
he sent it over, that's when it would be.
Because we need more people on that committee.
So we haven't set a special meeting yet to talk about the school, right?
And do we want to have that be a one topic meeting? Or,
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
If you want it as a one topic meeting, we're gonna have to open up other dates if you want to do it before February 1st.
I don't,
Because we've used all.
do we
the
really
dates.
need to hash it out for 3 hours?
Oh, God, no.
no.
But we need
So-
to now.
So would you propose to do it on the 16th, next Tuesday? As a special meeting?
It feels a little early, but I would be willing to do it. I
For the
feel like we kind of need
elementary
to
school?
make a decision and move on and address housing and parking and
It's. In the minimum of 20, well,
not sure how much more information we have to get to move forward. Or not,
Or make changes?
yes.
Everybody okay with the 16th?
It seems soon to me, too soon because it's less than a week, but I'll go.
So if,
And too soon, why? To let people know or?
Yeah, to get, because I'm sure there'll be tons of feedback again and tons of letter writing and all that stuff. And I think,
Oh, but It's up to us now to make a decision. We've
right,
opened it up to
yeah,
public a lot.
It feels like we have kind of exhausted
Yeah.
the request for input. We've got it.
well,
You know, let Lolly know. She'll get everybody going.
I would love it if the people who were in favor of it, and I know there are very many, would write letters too, but can't make,
Oh, but it's not a public, I mean, it's a public process, of course, but it's our turn now.
yeah,
I think we've heard.
I'd like to have a record. A really good record there, but
Now we've got it.
So we're going with the 16th special meeting after our work session.
and I can get that posted tomorrow morning.
Everybody okay with that?
I am.
Yeah.
I'll go along with the consensus of the group.
Because the only other option then is to look at the dates that we don't have meetings and try to schedule,
I don't,
which,
And the initial poll for that month, the week after the 16th and the week before the 30th, the 22nd, 23rd and 24th, we didn't have a consensus for those dates.
oh,
So
yeah. Okey dokey.
Okay.
It was out because that was fine.
Yeah, okay, it is the 16th.
Okay. Okay. Just a quick question. What do you want me to call it?
It's time to make a decision. Can we say results from the January 9th meeting?
No.
No.
Deliberations. On
That's
the
what it
public
is.
meeting, deliberations on the public meeting of January 9th.
Like a scope.
Deliberations regarding Cannon Beach Elementary.
Deliberations based on the,
And what did you say, Bruce?
I wouldn't tell you, they said just the deliberations on the Cannon Beach Elementary project. You've had input, you've had all,
Yeah.
tie it to the
Yeah.
one meeting. I'm
yeah,
afraid.
you're right,
Yep.
you're right.
We've had all
That's
those
good,
other
that's
meetings.
good.
And that
That's
all
sweet.
information can be in the packet.
Pardon?
That information will be in the packet.
What in?
What, did-
Well, if we're going to be deliberating on something, there's gonna be a packet.
The packet should have gone out yesterday.
Well, I guess it would depend on what you want in the packet. Because you guys have met and had meetings, discussed it. This is, do you want me to put the things that previously appeared in the packet?
It seems to me like we're doing some on the record deliberations here and there's not more information that we need, really, is
Right.
there?
we've got all the information,
Okay.
I think.
As the staff report would just.
Got it
say,
memorized.
To deliberate again, basically repeating what the title is. So that way there's a document in the packet and it says that there's no other information.
I think we've gathered all the information.
But people want to write letters before the deadline, they're welcome to do so.
Well, no, the packet is out. I'm gonna amend the packet, but the deadline for public comment is 3 PM the day before the meeting. So
They haven't until next month.
Right, to write letters.
Get into the packet.
Yeah. Oh,
The
no.
meeting is less than a week away.
Right, but half the time we don't have people who put comments in the packet because they don't do it until the packets come out, so this really wouldn't be much different.
If someone were to read it, that there's going to be a meeting and they write a letter on Friday, it would get in the packet, right?
It
It would be added on the website, it would be additional information. There's a word you use for it.
Additional
Yeah,
correspondence.
additional correspondence.
We do
Yeah.
need to remember Monday's a holiday.
I would just check it in the afternoon because it's still 3 PM the day before. I can post it that evening or
Even if it's a holiday.
even if it's a holiday, yeah, because Monday is a holiday, Tuesday is the meeting. I can even do it Monday morning at 8 AM. 45-ish,
You mean Tuesday?
Tuesday morning when I come in.
I'd like you to have your holiday.
Well, even if the deadline is the end of the day, Monday, I can do it Tuesday morning. It's
First thing.
And I would just text you guys and let you know that
Yeah.
it's posted,
Which we always appreciate
Yeah.
that you do that.
so we can still do it. And then if anything comes in on Friday, I'll send it out to you guys on Friday.
Right.
And then usually I just kind of hold everything and then make one big post on the website, but I still try to give you guys the information within a day or that it comes in.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else for good of the order? Okay, meeting's adjourned.